Hello, everybody, and welcome to our director's commentary for the second episode of the Lazarus expedition.
Hello,
let's start it
everybody,
off.
and welcome to the second episode of the Lazarus expedition.
Wow, I feel like I just said that.
Wonderful.
For like 20 hours. I'm doing great, Koibu. How are you?
I'm so good. I am so pumped. I got so much plans for
So,
today.
This
Does
session
anyone remember?
more
where
or
we
less
are?
goes as planned.
Dead in the dirt, actually.
This is one of those times the DM's got a goal, and the goal is accomplished
We're in desert.
more or less as I anticipated. A little bit different here, a little bit different there. But like, 95% on point here. So we're gonna pick up where we left off. Our characters are kind of screwed. There's two people at 1 HP. There's two people at 0 HP. There's a horse. And our party is a half a day from anything. Before they can really do anything, they're gonna need to return to town and rest up for a little bit. But now they've got some money. And I think pretty early on here, I make sure to go out of my way to explain to them that, like, you can find this money. You can find these weapons, and you can take this gear for yourself. I don't actually remember if they requested to loot the bodies, or if I just gave them the loot right away.
The special word is death saving throws.
We are introducing a rule here.
When we're playing in this little bit slower pace, a little bit
Just
more
listen for a
gritty
moment.
5th edition campaign, is adjusting the way that you recover death saving throws. When you've had a near-death experience, it sits with you a little bit. It sits with you in a similar way that exhaustion does. So all of your failed death saving throws will stick with you until you've had a long rest. That means if you go down, you got to get.
That's about
someone has to
the
get
gist of
back
it.
up pretty fast
And
before
there
you
were
start
two
to
options here.
accumulate those.
There
When you
was
start to accumulate them,
every time you are knocked unconscious, you gain a level of exhaustion, or every time you fail a death saving throw, it stays with you until you finish your long rest. Those were the two options I was kind of going back and forth with.
Actually, I like that.
And
but in the meantime,
it's a tough decision. I ended up going with death saves stay with you because I wanted death at higher levels to be something a little bit more achievable. In 5e, it's kind of easy to die at low levels, but once you hit level 3 or 4, it's kind of hard to die unless the entire party wipes, which is kind of a nice feature. And I wanted the notion of people going down and being in trouble to be a bit of a problem. And I wanted the idea of get your allies back up before they're down for too long to be a bit of a stressor and a point that the party should go after. And so we went with, if you fail a death saving throw, it stays with you until your long rest. And that way you can't be like knocked down, pass one, fail one, and then get raised, hop back into the fight, and continue without being concerned. If you fail the death saving throw and you go down, you're in serious trouble because all it takes is a natural 1 for you to die. If you failed 2 death saving throws, you need to be sure that you don't get knocked unconscious. Otherwise, you have a 45% chance of dying right off the bat. And that's dangerous. So, that's the way we went. I do sort of like the idea of taking exhaustion levels every time you're knocked unconscious. First off, it brings exhaustion into the game as a little bit more of a deal. And it makes it harder for people to play the I got knocked down, I got up again game, which is a little frustrating when someone is just like standing by and rezzing people, and then they come up and then they get knocked down, and they come up and they get knocked down, and up and down and up and down and up and down. It's kind of frustrating. The one thing that I will say that is okay with that is that it takes a full action for somebody to do that. So you are sort of wasting the party's action economy by doing the ups and the downs, unless you have Healing Word, which is a bonus action, which this party doesn't have. So we're gonna stick with this ruling.
would render you unconscious. So I don't know how much you want to mess with them. I don't know what your
I don't know. Maybe we should do both. Maybe I'll change it to both of them in the future.
But it would be kind of hilarious if Roy was the only conscious creature because you rolled a 1 on an animal handling check.
I don't think that Cassian knows. He probably hasn't dealt with many camels. Do we come from a very sandy?
You come from a non-camel area. You've heard of these weird horse-like creatures.
Ah, yes. The attempts to get
He
the
would
camels.
just assume it's like a horse. So he's gonna go up to the camel, grab
Yes.
it by the reins, and try to lead it back. What Cassian's thinking is that we need to get out of here. We're in the desert. These two are unconscious. We need to get the fuck out before more bandits come back.
Yes.
So I will go and I will animal handling check to grab and bring over a camel.
Yes, make me an animal handling check, please.
I don't know why I had it at advantage, but
Well, 11 is not good enough for it to come with you, but it's also not bad enough for it to bite you or kick you or do anything. And it just sort of stands there as you tug on the reins.
Right. So this is a nice little ruling here. He doesn't know anything about camels, but he's, trying, maybe worked with some other animals in life, coming up and trying to lead a camel after a fight when it's not your camel and it doesn't know you. Camels are known to be sort of stubborn, mean creatures anyway.
Totally different saddle types.
You're not going to bring them. But you might be able to at least handle the camel well enough to get the stuff from it. So I didn't have a DC in mind for this. I was just going to eyeball the dice and see what they tell me, which is something I do a lot. And 11, because he rolled here with advantage, but he's not supposed to have it. And 11 is not a great roll. It's not a terrible roll, So
we'll drag the bandit leader. I guess no. I'm gonna pick up the things. Roy's still having his meltdown, so Cassian's gonna pick up the water skins. How many?
There are 4 total. 2 on the bandit leader, 2 on the bandit.
Yep.
And this will set the precedent that we
4
see
water
later in the
skins
campaign of
on
people
those
carrying
now.
2 water skins at a time, because it's a hot area, and if you're traveling in a more temperate zone, 1 water skin for a person is probably fine. In a zone like this, 2 water skins is sort of what you need. If you don't have water for 6 hours, you're going to want that second water skin.
Okay. Grab that as well.
5 gold rings.
5 gold. Negligible weight.
Now, since the combat ended last
Silver
session,
armband,
I've had a week in between to prepare the loot
scimitar.
pretty well. And to decide what loot to give in this situation, I sat down
Not asking.
and I came up with the list of all the gear I thought the party might want to have. Armor, weapons, traveling supplies, the miscellaneous gear. And I eyeballed that amount of gear, and then I eyeballed the amount that they would need to get across the river with their horse and their 4 members. And then I set out to get them about half the money that they needed, give or take. Ballpark 50% of the money they would need to be fully geared. This is to put them in a situation where they can get to a rest place, they can rest and recover, they can get the gear they so desperately need, like shields for that extra AC, proper weapons, and then maybe like a little bit of other stuff on the side. And then they would be in a position where they still don't have everything that they need, and they can decide to sort of set out under-geared and hurry along their mission, or to stick around and find some extra work to get some extra gear. Because I wanted to enforce this sort of heroes are doing great things and helping people, and I had a quest that I wanted that would help underscore that. We will get to that quest, and so we'll talk about it a little bit later. And so the loot was designed to give them about half of what they needed. Most importantly, shields and weapons and leather armors or studded leather armors was that was really the goal to get there.
I magic missiled that guy. He fucking died.
Yeah. And we broke it up over some straight up wealth and over some rings and other miscellaneous loot, which is going to come up a little bit later, but we're going to talk about it now anyway. We talked about them having gold rings and armbands, and when the party gets to town, they're going to ask how much they can sell this for. And I tell them that you can sell it for half to an appropriate merchant, or you can try to sell it for full, but it will take time in game. And then we have a little conversation about the this gold ring is probably worth 5 gold, but you could probably sell it to a merchant for 2.5 gold.
Well,
Or you could try to find someone to sell it to for 5 gold. But imagine you yourself as a human being in the modern era walking around with a gold ring, trying to sell a gold ring for its full value just on the streets. Like, you could probably do it, but it might take a while. It might take you days. It might take you weeks if you're not a salesman. You might have to develop the skills of being a huckster and being able to sell things on the fly, right? You might have to wander around town and figure out where you could even sell this sort of, like, where are the sort of people who would be willing to buy a gold ring off of someone on the street who's like, hey, I got some watches, can I sell you a watch, right? And so we use the loot of the enemy here as a stepping stone to be like, it's so much easier and so much faster just to sell the loot to other people in town at half price and then go out and adventure to make up the rest of the money. Like, if you really wanted to get money for, like, the maximum value for this, you could, but it's not an efficient use of your game time. Like, in the same amount of game time, you could get way more loot just by selling it at to a shopkeeper and then go out and adventure more. And someone here, I think it's Potato McWhiskey, brings up the point that, or maybe it's Greenzerg, brings up the point that with really high value objects, it might be worth spending the extra time in game. Like, if you've got, 100,000 GP something, in that situation, it's probably worth it to find a person to sell it for max price rather than selling it to a merchant. But for, 50 gold, 60 gold, 70 gold, it's not worth your game time, and it's not worth your out of game time to do that sort of stuff. And this is a nice way to softly introduce that, where I think the party gets, I probably actually have it in my notes right here.
He'll be all right.
All right, Roy, are you gonna
Let's see. 5 gold rings for 5 GP each, a silver armband for 50 GP.
Okay.
So 25, that's 75 gold, which they can sell for half. Or if they wanted to, if they really, really wanted to, they could sell for full. But we're only talking like 37.5 gold difference. And that's not really worth it. For what? An hour of gameplay? It's just not worth it. And then make the right decision to just sell it to a merchant and hand wave it and move on, because that 37.5 gold wasn't going to make or break them. They're going to have to go on an adventure anyway, and it's just not worth their time. That's the right call. And that was a very intentional way to introduce you've got loot and you can sell your loot, but your loot is going to be sold at less than full value. That's why we did it that way. And that's how I decided how much loot to give them.
And Dow's Roy with a little bit of confidence. He's not now completely shay, but he's now focused on making friends with the camel.
You give him a name.
Oh wow, this is the position that you're always in, Koibu. It's not that easy after all.
Wait, I have a document for this if you'd like.
Sure.
One sec.
Oh, bum, the camel.
Here's the document if you want to go there yourself.
The track being used here in the background. Listen for a moment.
Yeah, give me something.
Zanzil?
Zanzil the camel. Perfect.
Come here, there's one of them.
Come here. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're alive. I'm alive.
I think that is the Survivors.
I think then we're gonna chill out and wait.
Bulvac?
2 hours later,
soundtrack off of.
remaining party members arrive at.
Oh, actually, hold on.
Stemir slowly opens his eyes. What do I see
Crap,
now?
there's something I wanted to get to, but I think I missed it
I
here.
just see the remnants of a bandit camp.
Oh, no. Okay, we're not there yet. Cool. So the soundtrack that we're using is Survivors Bulvac, which I have I've labeled as a reflective track, and it's kind of sad and it's kind of slow, and it's the perfect track for, like, you've all survived a terrible thing. Let's talk about how this has affected your characters for a moment and where it brings you and what's going on. And it's a little bit like heavy.
In my head slightly. It pains me to do so. Looking to the
Cassian
left.
looks at you and says, "You're finally awake."
Yeah. Last I saw you were on the floor.
But you know, the party's a little more
God's light shine
jovial than I
down
was
upon me
expecting. They're
once
not so
again,
much
and,
like, oh my
was
god,
able
we've just
to
barely survived this, because
bring
we
me
picked
up.
it up the next
We
week.
defeated
And
the
so I
bandits.
picked a heavy
Thanks,
track to
Lazarus.
fit the mood, but like the player's
Thanks to
mood doesn't
Roy.
necessarily
We
match
were
the
able to,
in-game
kill
mood
them
because
all.
they've had like
No.
a whole game, a whole week of downtime.
Maybe
And now they're coming back like, oh yeah, let's play some Dungeons and Dragons. Oh yeah, we're in a
just
terrible
strong.
situation
You
where
can,
we're all
check the
almost
bandit body
dead.
yourself
And I'm
if you
like,
don't believe
yes,
me.
feel your death, feel how hard and
Kid saved your
traumatizing
life.
it was. And the player's like, la 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 la.
Where is he?
So, you know, maybe the right
point
pick
to
for
him
the
with the camel.
mood had the players been
Rambling to the
playing
camel about
directly
the story of Arcadia.
after the thing had happened.
think
But
it's-
considering that they're coming in fresh,
Seven
maybe this was
watches
not the
Roy
perfect
for a
track.
comfortably long time, considering that this boy has saved his life. And then looks back to Cassian and says, "Well, I'm not sure I believe you, but not really in a place to argue right now. What are we doing? I'm tired."
Quick
He's got the right
question,
feeling.
Are life debts a thing? Is that normal? Or is it just like a night thing? Like if someone saves your life, you like owe a debt to them.
That is prominent among some societies.
That's a really great question that Mr. Mooten brings up, because life debts are sort of a thing in the real world in some places. And him asking, I don't know if him asking that is asking as if he's wanting me to say this is totally a thing that should exist, or if he, like, I'm not sure what point he's getting at, and I'm trying to give him room to say, like, yes, you can do that if you want, but like, don't feel obligated. I'm trying to, you know, support his decision without necessitating it.
Actually, I don't even know. I suppose I could be nobleborn, but I was left on the steps of a church, so
So you'll never know, huh?
yeah, I'll never know. I mean, I'm not about to swear a life debt.
That's what Cassian was implying, but he sees that you didn't get what he's saying. But okay, cool.
Perhaps you can bring it back up later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I say like, well, I guess I'm not in any position to argue. I mean, are we going anywhere, or can I go back to sleep?
You know, it might be a nice thing to reintroduce this topic if Green Zerg is ever saved by Pokemon challenges again.
I think we need to get out
To
of this
bring
desert.
back the, like, you know, he saved your life 2 or 3 times now. Do you owe him a life debt? That might be a nice callback if anyone remembers it.
I say we head back. We take our camels. We go back to the outpost. Heal up. Wait there. Maybe we can even get a we can get passage across the bridge with this, and he'll pull out the bag of 50 gold and like wave it in front of you.
Hey, wow. And the bandits have that?
Yes.
People are rich around here. But
They
can
had
I
50
sleep
gold and
until the paladin
150
wakes up?
silver. We're gonna skip ahead a little bit here. Pretty soon they begin to head
Saying
back
we can get back
to the previous town, the northern outpost. I want to find.
lovingly handcrafted by a blacksmith, visually unique.
They have like a
Or-
symbol.
I want to find
Lovingly
a particular section in here.
well after I do believe care of the day. Everyone
Here we go.
Sandover.
You'll notice the background sound has changed because we're about to head out on foot. We're about to begin the travel, and I've picked a particular soundtrack. I think it's called Desert Winds for this moment.
once the bandits are buried, head back. It'll take you the better part of the day. Everyone will have to mark off one of their rations. I do believe Cassian is carrying Roy's ration, so mark off 2.
Trying to remember our food supplies, which I always forget.
And that evening, well after the desert winds have
Look at that face. Okay, we're gonna go back. Watch the facial expression there if you can.
Roy's ration, so mark off 2, Cassian.
Because I skip ahead and then I realize that I needed to say something and I rewind and re-explain something. A key point that that is important to make right here.
Then 6.
And you can see me fail to make it and then remember that I have to make it.
That evening,
Here it comes.
well after the desert winds have begun to kick up sand that pelts your flesh.
There we go. That comment right there about the desert winds being uncomfortable is very important to say, because we're going to talk about traveling, and we're going to talk about short rests, good rests, and we're going to talk about the gear that you need in order to get good rests in the desert. And one of the things you're going to need is a tent, because hey, when those desert winds pick up and are blowing sand in your face, if you're sleeping outside, you're not going to be able to sleep. Or if you do sleep, like, sand piles are going to fill up on your face, and then you're going to be snorting sand into your nose, and you're going to wake up and you're not going to be able to sleep. And so the comment about the desert winds are blowing sand that are pelting you, and having the wind blowing soundtrack are me, beginning to setting the foundational stones of, this is a difficult environment that is hard to live in, and if you are not prepared to live in this environment, you're going to have a hard time to do it. And I had sort of like skipped over it in excitement, and then had to go back, and even though that's not a comment that anyone's paying fucking attention to. I mean, look at Pokemon Challenge's face here. Look at all of their faces here. Nobody's interested in what I'm saying, but you put that information in there anyway in hopes that maybe someone remembers it, or maybe they just get like the feeling of the winds and the desert's a difficult environment, and we just talk about it a whole bunch of times in order to get that, like, yes, the desert winds, yes, the sand in your face. Yeah, you need a tent if you're going to be camping outside. That sort of sears your skin and gets in your hair and makes it hard to see more than a few hundred feet in front of you, and sort of dampens all the sound of anything nearby as well. Make it back to northern port of Avalar.
Thank you, Martha, I say as we come towards the town.
Now, the party already
We
had
had
an
no
encounter
problem
the same
bringing the
day.
camels with us?
We didn't need to roll for a second encounter. We already knew. In the desert, there's not a lot of life. You're probably going to have fewer than one encounters a day. In theory, you could have multiple encounters a day, but unless you're searching for them, it's unlikely to happen. And so I didn't even bother rolling for a second encounter. Just,
come
you
back,
make
I
your way
guess,
back to
later
Avalar,
in
and it's
fall.
fine.
We've returned.
Yeah, some of the guards here recognize you from your previous day. They welcome you on in. They see your incredible wounds and give you the space not to ask any questions at this point, but you can see them sort of like eyeing your camels, eyeing the extra gear. You're carrying these like bloody clubs or maybe these bloody sabers with you, scimitars with you. We're trying to make the point that the guards here aren't fools, that they know these people have gone out and been in a fight and murdered a bunch of folks, and that they've come right on back, and yet the guards are letting them in anyway. The guards aren't stopping them. The guards are seeing that they've just killed people, and they're still welcoming them inside. This is an important point.
I mean, if I catch someone giving this look, I'll say to him, bandits. Just as like a passing word as I walk past him.
Great job from Nick right there. Perfect. Just be like a little bit of role playing, a single word here, but it like says everything. Like it says that we've killed these bandits. You and I both understand that it's acceptable. I get that you're okay with me killing these people, and I get that you understand that I'm okay killing with these people. And everyone's just like, yeah, this was an acceptable thing to do. Just that little blurb from Nick says so much about the Steermer character and where his character's headspace is. That was a really good job.
Yeah, there's a
We'll
nod of
take this
understanding.
opportunity to tell them as much as he can about them. To tell them about the magic missiles and how he heroically did it and how he saved them and how
Roy's so annoying. I love him so much.
he almost died. We'll give him the whole spiel.
Much to your surprise, Roy, the guards stand and listen to your whole story. Make me a...
This is that Age of Heroes shit coming in here. The guards want to hear the story because this guy might be an up-and-coming hero. And if he's got a tale to tell about fighting off bandits, the guards are interested. This isn't me, giving Roy space to build his character, which, this could be a perfect example, a perfect time to do that. This is me trying to say, like, something about the guards and the society here that, like, they are interested in the tales of your exploits.
What's the appropriate check here?
Performance
check.
Performance.
Oh,
right?
yeah, shit.
Good job, Neal. Bad job, Roy.
They listen to
Very
your
on
story.
brand.
And they chuckle at it a few times. when you go deep into the details about magic missiles and its origins before you actually describe the killing blow, you could see them like looking at each other with eyebrows raised, like, what the fuck is this guy saying? Oh my god, what a zoomer. And story is not well received. At one point, though, as you're ending it up, one of the guards will ask, well, what are you called? And right here, once again, we're trying to reintroduce the, like, you are heroes, make a name for yourself. You're going to hear me say we're trying to, build up the Age of Heroes concept a lot in these directors' commentaries, because we're trying to do it subtly in the background without taking a player by the face and saying, this is the Age of Heroes, you need to be a hero and craft yourself like a hero and advertise yourself as a hero. We want like the setting to imply to the players and the setting to push the players in that direction and have the players like soak it up by osmosis. And so you're going to hear me saying a lot, this moment here is trying to get the Age of Heroes into their ideas and trying to exemplify the greater concepts that we're in play, because that shit comes up a lot.
I'm Roy Waystar, like the Waystar.
And this right here is where Roy and the Waystars gets started as a concept, because he says, I'm Roy Waystar. Like the Waystar is the name of the group, not like Waystar is my last name. And this is where we get the beginning of the confusion of Roy and the Waystars, as if Waystar could be the name of like a rock band or something.
From the Waystar family. You've probably heard of this.
Your group. Are you the leader of your group?
Well,
Which one of you is the hero?
I mean,
that comment is specifically designed for Roy because he was talking about wanting to be a hero.
I don't know about hero. I did save like all three of them, I guess.
And
so
he looks to his friend Roy and the Waystars.
Well, it's it's more of a noble name. I wouldn't really call yourself a Waystar if I wasn't. But we are. I guess we're kind of a group. Yeah, that's.
God, he's so awkward. Roy is awkward. Not Pokemon challenges is here. Like I'm trying to set him up for glory and success, and he's being the perfect fumbling, bumbling over his own self, and lack of self-confidence, identity kid in this moment, and he does it so well.
And I guess I am the hero that saved the group. I guess you could say that. Yeah.
Does your group have a name?
I guess we don't. We just, we stranded on the beach, and we're the
terrible name.
Yeah, I'm not really.
I really do crack myself up. I don't care if anyone else likes my jokes, but
I do like Roy and
they're good to me.
I just don't know if my dad would like me calling them that.
Roy and the washed up on the beaches, terrible name.
Night will come. Our party will rest atop one of these roofs again. You'll find a place to tie up your camels. You've already discharged your rations for the day, so no need to do that. Your horse was fed earlier today, and I think with you planning to go into town tomorrow and wave the feeding of the animals, they'll go a little hungry, but it will otherwise be fine.
We're just trying to move on with the storyline here.
Go into town tomorrow?
Yeah, because
we need to pay the 50 gold.
We need a long rest, I think. Plus, I think we're gonna have better chance at selling this jewelry here than we are anywhere else. But I do wonder if we should sell the camels to the guards, because that guy's going to charge us a fortune to transport 2 camels.
He might take the camels as payment.
Yes, that's one thing we could offer him.
I mean,
we're going to skip ahead. They talk about shit.
I think
I'll do too. Is that right?
And we changed the music here to be a little bit more lighthearted.
Everyone had 2 left.
No, but I had 1 left. But I
I didn't know if anyone
used
had 1 remaining from last time or not.
Yeah.
I don't remember what this track is in particular. But we've moved into the like resting, relaxing, safe in town, and it sounds a little bit more idyllic than like a desert way station. But we use a more gentle track for the hanging and chilling.
Wind, those recharge. I do believe Arcane Recovery recharges on a short rest.
Yep.
That means one spell slot, right?
Yeah, you can get 1 spell slot. I get my channel divinity back.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I think I go back to full HP if I'm reading this right.
Yes, you are.
Okay, cool.
It's not hard to get back up to 8 HP.
No wonders of 5th edition. No, actually, we're fine. We had a little sleep in the hay.
Yeah. Vasher, you can add your con mod to those.
Added.
It
We're gonna
might
skip ahead.
update. And that will clear you later. A ship
Wait,
will come
is-
by.
Just before we carry on,
Just
Ooh, yes,
accept it.
because it is D10 plus. That's great.
I put the con bonus in, so yeah.
Price is going to be the same. They don't know you. They don't trust you. You want to come across the water, it'll be 10 GP ahead, including 10 GP for the horse and 10 GP for a camel. So
We
you're
have 2 camels, so
70, right?
Yep. 70
We've
gold.
got that, though.
You do.
we
It's a
do.
huge fee because this is not what this.
That, though.
70 gold is a lot of money.
And they consider it a risk.
70 gold's a lot of
Hey,
money.
they'll take it. And they also know they can
Especially for a short journey across a river.
Can I try to persuade him just down, like I'll haggle, if I can haggle just a couple of gold per head.
Oh, God. Haggle for a couple of gold here, a couple of gold there. It's such a... That always brings up such a quandary as a DM. Because on the one hand, you want your players to be active in the game and try to find little edges to gain advantages. Like, that's a fun thing as a player. And you want to encourage the players to be like, these are the rules, but what can I do? On the other hand, if you let your players haggle for a little bit of gold here and a little bit of gold there all the time, then every time you charge them, we're going to have a little bit of a haggling scene. And it just ends up eating up so much time, and it ends up not being like an effective use of time necessarily, and it doesn't really make a big difference in the economy. But at the same time, like, it's a little bit of storytelling, and we're not just here to like get to the end and kill the boss. Like, we're here to have fun, and if the haggling is fun, let's do the haggling. But it also fucks with the economy. You know, if you say this is the price of something because you expect there to be no argument about the prices of things, then you can build sort of like a sensible economy around that. But if you allow people to haggle for prices, now all of a sudden you sort of have to raise all your prices a little bit because you expect people to have to haggle them down a little bit. And then it throws a monkey wrench in the economic mechanics of things. And now, most of the time as a DM, you don't really care about the economic mechanics of things. It's probably fine. And only if you're a mega dork like me who does this full time, then the economics of the local economy are going to, you know, claw at you in the back of your brain. You're going to want it to make sense for your own sense keeping. And so I find the haggling for like a little edge here and a little edge there a very... it's a dilemma because I want my players to haggle, but their haggling ruins the game. But it doesn't ruin the it throws a monkey wrench in the economics of the area. So if they're going to haggle, then I should raise all the prices a little bit. So that way there's, you know, we can still make sense of the economy. But if I raise the prices and they don't haggle, then things so it's just there's no perfect solution to this problem.
Like the 8 GP per head.
I
Or is he
don't think you're in any
completely
position
resistant?
to haggle. I don't think you have anything this person wants other than your gold, and they have literally everything that you.
And this is my get out of haggling this time card, is just like, you've got nowhere to go. Like, they are outrageously overcharging you to begin with. There's no reason for them to meet you any which way. Like, they've got you over a barrel. You can try and say, don't put me over a barrel so much, but they also don't really care. So
You want. Unless you've
Fair.
got an angle. Do you have an angle?
Maybe if I think. Well, look, we killed some bandits. We helped you guys out. We're making the streets safer. You're making more money. You could give us a tiny little discount for bandit killing. 1 or 2 gold ahead.
No. They don't.
All right, I
they
did
don't
my
care
best.
About bandits. No. Okay. Someone shell out the.
There are
absurd
times, and I think we do see that in not
shut up.
this session, but the next session, where they do effectively haggle for better situations. They end up haggling for accommodations where the inn charges this much, but a couple of them end up like sleeping in barns and not having to pay anything. And so we do allow haggling, you know, I shouldn't say allow, but we do indulge the haggling a little bit later when it makes a little more sense.
Fairly large. It has a great ziggurat, sort of like a stepped pyramid at the middle of it, with massive marble columns that rise up that are still sort of currently in construction. There's walls on the far side and on the right and left flanks approaching the river that are being built by many working hands. There's mud brick houses and buildings all over the place. The finest ones are covered with like bright white plaster. The streets are hard-packed earth. And unlike the cities that you're used to back over in the Stormtide Kingdom,
So we're describing the area, and we've picked a track that I've labeled as like awe-inspiring. This track is called Steampunk Station, and it's one of my favorite tabletop audio tracks.
So quickly that doesn't have time to fester and rot and mold, and so there's like a sanitation to this area that you've never really experienced before. All throughout town, you can see packs of people moving, and it's a wide variety of people. There's humans, there's dwarves, there's half-elves, there's a couple of elves here and there. There's a whole bunch of like not hobbits, I'm sorry, Tolkien, halflings running through the city streets with some human
Very
children
different thing.
everywhere. And you do see servants and slaves and nobles and commoners and
Little quick reminder, hey, slavery is a thing here. We're not quite talking about it right now. We're talking about the wonders of this new place and the strange new sights and sounds, but we are going to come back to that issue, that moral dilemma, that reason that we're going to save good King Arnold. And so we're using the track that's supposed to be awe-inspiring for the first time in this new city, which is supposed to be sort of like an eye-opening, you know, we're in brand new lands, everything is amazing, like what is going on here. We talk about the sanitation of the area, we talk about the scale of everything, we talk about how everything is being constructed and there's new walls going up and there's all sort, like, the goal is to create an environment in which the players feel awash in new ideas and concepts. Merchants and guards and an extraordinary number of priests and priestesses and clerics that you aren't used to seeing everywhere. You can see the holy symbols, generalists or specialists all around them. They seem to be wearing like special clothing that denotes them of holy orders, and there's like lots of little shrines and temples scattered everywhere. Avalar is an unusual place, and as you're getting off the boat, one of the guards recognizes that you're out-of-towners, you're coming in on the wrong part of town. Like, this is not normally where passengers get off. This might not have been a necessary thing to say. When I built the town, I built 3 docks, and the party is coming in on a cargo dock where cargo is moving back and forth, and there's a passenger dock, and bothering to talk about such minutia doesn't really help the game in this situation, and I think I probably should have just hand waved it and ignored it. But this is the classic effect of over planning, where you know how the thing is supposed to be, and so you feel the need to enforce the supposed to be. And there's no point. It doesn't make the game any better. It doesn't really teach us anything. The party's not going to hang in Avalar for a long time. They're never going to need to actually know dock procedure. This is just like a minutia of bureaucracy that I'm bringing up because I overplanned the region and I feel the need to stick with the overplanning. This is why it's best to underplan and over improvise. And the guard will immediately like hastily run over to you and see what the hell's going on with these people who are showing up in the wrong part of town and getting off of the wrong boat. What's happening over here? And get up in your faces and look at you and go, what are you doing getting off at this port? This isn't for passengers. Bad job, Neal.
But forgive us, we're not from this city or this land. We didn't know that it wasn't the right way to get into the city.
They should be greeted with wonder and excitement and wandering through the streets, not immediately being accosted for dumb bureaucratic reasons. This is a classic blunder.
This is the ferry
How
port.
do you?
You should be getting off at the trade port. It's the next port up the river.
Oh, my apologies. It won't happen again.
Pokemon handles it so well, though. He's a pro.
Well, if you're not from here, I should let you know a few things before you set foot too far into town. You need to stay in the summer district. It's the only place where there's inns. It's the only place where people like you can come and hang out. If you're new, you might want to make your way for the Windbreak.
That right there gives us a place to go. Like, they're in town, gotta give them a destination. Go to the inn. Here is its name.
Common Inn. Might suit you well. Arson Quarters
Thank
right
you.
across the street from that. Temple District's right across the street from that. Blood Quarters on your backside if you need to sell anything or any people, or hit up the Coliseums. I don't
Music
think it needs
might
to
be too
said,
loud
but
here.
just in case. No crime, no killing, no fighting to the death. Our clerics here have excellent divination abilities, and if you kill someone, we'll find out from the dead. We'll find you. The laws extend only to the city walls. Beyond that, it's up to you to defend yourself.
This information was originally going to be given to the party by another NPC, but then when we got into the situation where the guard is talking to them, which we shouldn't have done to begin with, I moved the person who was going to give them this information from that other person to this guard because, hey, we're already in the middle of it, so here's how the city's laid out, here's what's going on, blah, blah, blah.
Thank you for the information. I can promise you we have no intention to kill anyone here. At least not striking first. I do have a question.
Yeah.
Where can't we go? You said we should stick to the summer district? Are there places that are restricted? Or was that...
Summer District is for inns, guest services, transportation, scribes, money exchangers, mints, that sort of thing. It's probably where you want to be. The artisan quarters right next to that. That's where you've got your your skilled labor, all of your sold
Blah,
and
blah, blah.
performed
Welcome
acts
to
are there.
Avalar. We're going to skip ahead. So they come
he's
into the
kinda
city.
spiked my
I
curiosity,
give them some directions. I tell them what's going on. I kind of give them the layout. Wasn't my best effort.
You want? You can afford to.
Can I have a bear?
They ask some rules about society, about how the world works.
Sure, buddy. Go get yourself a bear.
Asking whether or not you can have a bear in a town is actually a great question. Like, can I bring a very dangerous creature into this town? And I had never considered that point of view. And honestly, it's kind of hilarious to bring a bear into here, but why not?
Up the river, cut across the hills. Go find yourself a bear in a forest somewhere. Bring it back down the river alive somehow, and then I don't know, supply it with enough food. If you can bring a bear, he shrugs like it's a thing that could never happen. I mean,
This was maybe not the best response. To nail things right, I would have been like, yes, you can have a bear, and just left it at that. But Neal, the DM, was so tickled by the concept of having a bear in the city that I had the NPC sort of make light of the situation. And that's not the right way to go about it. The right way to go about it would have been to just be like, yes, you can have a bear. We're okay with that. But I hadn't considered it. And when I thought about, like, would these guards, would this town allow you to have a bear? The concept tickled me, human, enough that it made my NPCs laugh instead.
I mean, if it kills anyone, you'll be held responsible.
That's the real answer.
Bear. Get on out of here, guys. Get on out. Yeah, way
Noted.
too often to chuckle.
I'm out of coffee.
Bears and
Thank you, good
Avalar.
sir.
Oh, foreigners.
I'll turn to the party and I'll say, right, shall we get these camels?
Rest. As a cleric,
And we've also all been given like a short briefing on what it is. It is in a desert, but not this
Yeah.
desert. And it's an old
taking. Oh no, you said there's.
So we're gonna skip ahead.
monster.
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah.
Got no choice.
that you're walking down through has become packed and crowded, and there's voices, and in the distance you hear like
So they're
the
gonna
sounds
see
of
something.
trumpets.
And you can see, you can hear in the background, I've added in a secondary audio track here. I think it is like Market Fair or something that we're overlaying on top of the steampunk station to represent like the growing crowd. And the party's going to see Queen Priest Mayalata, I think her name is.
And fairly soon, coming across another wide avenue, is some sort of procession. There's these like people in these light clothes with these bejeweled headbands and these large like curling trumpet-like objects, announcing the arrival of something, and then coming by on a palanquin carried by like 6 people on each corner with a sunshade over it and nice like gentle silk fabrics hanging down, providing a little bit of shelter, is who must be the Queen Priest Mayolata the Divine. She's in her mid-30s, over 6 feet tall, being, carried, stretched out on this palanquin.
And we've introduced, some very basic details. She's tall, she's on a palanquin, in her mid-30s, just sort of like starting to set the stage. And then we're going to hit them all with the hey, you're in a strange land and things are different here than what you might expect.
She's well over 500 pounds. She's got woven black hair. She's covered in jewelry made of gold and bronze and tarnished copper with pearls, turquoise, and onyx stones, and rosewood and bogwood accents. She wears only a wide embroidered linen sash belt around her waist with like a flap hanging down between her knees, and just sort of sits on her palanquin on her side, heavy rolls hanging off her jewelry covering her everywhere, waving to the people as she's toted down the street by 6 men on each corner of this huge palanquin, surrounded by priests and priestesses and trumpeters. And everyone in the streets is shouting and cheering, and those closest take a knee or go all the way down to their hands and knees in prayer and bowing.
So we're showing them while keeping them well away from it, because you never know when a D&D party is going to do something wild. So I introduced them at the back of a crowd, well out of reach of the queen, so they didn't do anything dumb. So it could just be like her passing by, and fully preventing the party from getting in their own way and hurting her or causing any ruckus in the situation. Because she's like a level 15 caster or something, and there's plenty of guard. It would be instant death if they did anything wrong. And I really didn't want to put them in a situation where they might, out of funsies, open a door to a death knight and get themselves killed. But we do a moment where we show them this unusual person. She's a queen priest, unusual enough. She's really heavy set, and she's decked out in a ridiculous amount of jewelry, and she's practically naked, except for the jewelry. And she's being carried on a palanquin through the streets, right? And so we're trying to introduce like weird new land, weird new place, weird new people. This sort of thing would never pass. This is not what we're expecting. And again, we're playing off of our players' expectations of what a queen might be, which if you are, in the modern era, your expectation of what a queen might be Queen Victoria, or the couple, the Queen of England, or maybe doesn't Sweden have a queen, or France have a... There's a couple of other monarchs scattered around Europe, and your thoughts of a queen might be one of these more modern, well put together, quiet, dainty, polite, sophisticated, not like covered in jewelry, large rolls of flesh hanging off your body, carried by other people while you're laying on your side, just like gently waving to people. I'm trying to present them with like an image of a monarch that is very contrary to what they would expect.
As the little procession moves across and then is gone, and soon the sound of trumpets is lost amongst the city streets and the tall walls once more.
Was it odd that we didn't take a knee and bow?
No, you're far enough back that there's like a bunch of people between them.
Well, that was
Do
something.
I recognize her from any stories or anything? Am I like sewing out?
Yeah. You have heard of the queen priests and king priests of
Soying
Avalar before.
out.
This is a
Wow.
place ruled by clerics. there's not often a lot of information, so what you have about Avalar is kind of old. The only reason you know this is Queen Meolata is because the guards at the other side of the river told you about her last time you were here. And you're probably
So this
not
is once
too-
again Roy sort of knowing maybe more about this area than I would like. But he built his character as an Arcadia weeb. And so we're giving him a little bit of information here and there. Ideally, they would have gone around and asked the locals for this information, but the Arcadia weeb is fine. It's fine. It's not what I had in mind, but it works out, and it's probably only making a 0.5 percentage point difference in the campaign.
I'm surprised by her nakedness and massive girth. Here in this area, it's somewhat of a, you would call it like a point of pride and honor.
Yeah.
And it's a position of honor to wait upon or to bring food or drink to the king and queen priests of the area.
Yeah, Roy soys out and then immediately like goes on his
One of these
knees.
days, I've really
Or
got to
on-
figure
on
out
one
what
knee as he
soy
bows as they
in this
pass.
context means.
And
It's been explained to me a couple
know,
of times,
he'll,
and my
he'll
my millennial
side-eye
brain
the
just
other
sort of
guy,
like
like,
lets it in one
really
ear and out the
important.
other.
This is-
We're just gonna skip ahead some.
Sing.
So they meet some
Generally,
new people.
There
They see
is
something about the town,
fast way,
and they make their way
and then
here.
there's the slow way. The fast way,
Which is to the inn. And now we're going to talk again briefly about that money exchange we mentioned earlier about selling gems and jewelry. So let's just do a quick listen in on how we explain it.
is whatever gear you have, you can sell at half of market rates, like half player's handbook prices. And that will be you go to a person who sells these things, you sell it to them, they'll turn around and sell it for full price somewhere else. The other option is you can try to sell your items directly to a person at either full price or a little bit above or a little bit below, but that will take a lot more in-game time and a lot more out-of-game time. And generally, that sort of thing is best left to merchants. If you're really in a bind and you got to make that camel go as far as possible, you might want to spend 20 minutes of game time in real time to try and sell that camel. Or you could just say you sell everything to the appropriate merchants, you get whatever money you can out of it, and then you can move on with your adventure and make money through action rather than through merchanting.
Because we're going to do a
way-
long rest here, is it possible that we could, shop around for a few days, roll a luck dice or something, not get full price, not even get like, overpriced, just maybe like somewhere a little bit above half since we're going to be here for a whole week?
Probably not. You're going to
Okay.
either sell it to a merchant or you will be the merchant trying to sell it to an in-betweener.
This is another area where we're trying to, maybe see what sort of edges we can play. And in the past, I've entertained some of these edges a little bit more. And I think I'm trying to get the mechanics to be a little bit more streamlined. And if the players really want to do something, they can do something. But sort of we have time, so can we, it sort of boils down to like, I'm asking for bonuses. Can I get bonuses? And I'm trying to resist the urge to say like, yes, you can just have your bonuses because you asked for them. Like, go. I like the concept in D&D of if you put in effort and role playing into something, you can get something out of it. Or if you tech your character with the appropriate skills, you can get something out of it. If one of these people had said, well, my character is a merchant, I was a merchant back home before I got recruited into the army, and selling things is what I do, then I would be totally down to give them bonuses on selling things or, slightly higher prices on all sorts of stuff. But that's not any of the backgrounds any of our characters have picked. And so just saying, like, I've got a week of downtime, can I spend that week selling stuff? Like, if we do say that, then they should the thing that they should be giving up in exchange would be the week of downtime is spent selling these things and walking around to merchants and getting the lay of the land and getting involved in the sales. But if that is what the week of downtime is spent doing, then they're not going to be able to get involved in the other stuff that is going to be happening in that week of downtime, which I have things I have planned for them in this week of downtime that are important to the story and to the plot. And so we're trying to just be like, just take the money, dude. That's what we're trying to do here. And it's not a little heavy-handed. But as we mentioned before, there's the easy way and there's the hard way. And if we're going to take the easy way, let's just take the easy way.
And it just depends on how you want to spend your game time. If you want to spend it marketing and haggling, which you might want to do if you have something super valuable. If you've got something that's really worth a lot, it may absolutely be worth it to sell it by hand. But if you've got lots of little things, you know, like you've got 4 scimitars, a silver armband, 5 rings, you've got, you know, those water skins, these camels, the camel sacks, the camel reins. It might not be worth the time to nickel and dime your way through the economy.
A couple of questions then, right? Number one, do I feel like, just from what I've seen walking around, that prices of things here are sort of comparable to back home? And the second question,
Great question,
is what skill would I have to roll to try and appraise the items that we've got, just so we don't get totally ripped off?
good question, but I'm not trying to rip them off. And I just want to move the economics along. But our players are super smart gamers who are used to min-maxing and looking for every little edge. And it's hard to be like, guys, I'm trying to be honest with you. Just take it at face value, right? I'm not trying to tell them how to enjoy their game and how to play it. And the economics are always such an interesting angle, especially when you're a StarCraft player, or you know, which Nick is, or any of these like a 4X player, where the specific prices of things really comes into play. Yes, they are about same. There will be some notable exceptions. This seems to be an area that is desperately lacking in iron. There's lots of copper, Arcadia's
bronze,
famously
brass,
iron
tin,
ore.
pewter, all sorts of other things lying about, but not very much iron. Anything that comes in like an iron or a more exotic metal type might be more expensive. Similarly, wood seems to be in a bit of a scarce supply here.
They're in a desert.
So things that are primarily made out of wood might be a little bit pricier.
It's an expensive stick I've got right here.
Maybe. Might be worth 50% more than an average stick. Yeah. As for appraisal,
Yeah.
Great question. I don't think 5e has a solid appraisal stat off the top, does it?
I mean, insight, maybe?
Maybe.
Insight would be like to know you're not getting ripped off.
I feel like insight is normally versus a person, and that might be reading the merchant, which is similar to appraisal.
It's the best one I can tell, apart from investigation, perhaps.
I think
But
it might be like a charisma check or, I don't know, intelligence of some kind.
We're gonna skip.
Bye.
Do you guys need anything from the shopping trip? I would like to use my
Armor.
great weapon fighting.
Yeah.
shields.
You know, this is one of those areas where I would really prefer my players just like give me a shopping list and say I need these things. But I think they do a little bit of actually going around to markets and doing a little bit of shopping and talking.
We have
Yeah.
Morning Stars.
And we do essentially we get
probably
to
most similar to a hammer.
you know just buying stuff.
Yeah, well, Morning Star is
17 gold.
We're gonna skip ahead.
How do I get a symmetry?
As we mentioned before, we figured out how much money they were going to have, how much money they would probably want to spend on stuff, and then gave them about half, which gets them all of their weapons and armor that they might need, and then not their adventuring gear, or it gets them their adventuring gear, but not all their weapons and armor, so they have to make some tough choices. In the end, they buy weapons and armor, which is the right choice to make.
there's that lock button, and then right. 2 of our warriors have shields, right? Did everyone get shields on their character sheet? Way.
Skip.
And they're looking at something. They're looking at a body that's
Perfect. This is where
That's
we want to
okay.
be.
Yeah, I think you got your horse. You and break in here in Avalar, or maybe when you come back from one of these big shopping excursions, that you see there's a bunch of clerics gathered round in the middle of the inn, and they're looking at something. They're looking at a body that's lying on the inn floor, a dead body. You can see like some blood pooling around it. And all the residents of the inn are looking in fairly closely at this and whispering in amongst themselves. You can see the clerics are casting some sort of speak with dead, or see through the eyes of the dead, or some sort of past life spell, or some sort of like communing with the dead to...
Yeah, Neal, we get the point.
To talk with this dead person. You can
We
hear
get it.
one of the priests with their hand on the dead man's face, whispering questions to him. When sitting next to you, or sitting at a table near where you're walking up, is a drunken cleric who in your face and the kind of like fresh eyes goes, just so you guys know, didn't kill anyone in town. Kill him outside of town. Just so you
What happened?
those clerics are gonna see what happened. And then they're gonna go, you can use like find person spell, find the person responsible, and you're gonna take them up to the Great Ziggurat, or maybe the Old Quarter, and sacrifice them to the gods for crimes.
Sacrifice them.
What?
Oh
the-
yeah.
To which god?
Well, good question. Probably Velmontarius, god of justice. But I guess it really depends on the crime, you know.
That's
I
not
myself
justice.
am I don't work here in the city. I have my shrines outside of town, by the graveyard. At least when I can get to it, it is.
And now we start to introduce the quest.
My name,
When you can get
my
to it.
name's
Pokemon
Dio.
picked up on it.
Nice to meet you. Cleric of Jexel.
Nice.
reaches out a
Potato
hand.
picked up on it.
Whoever will take it.
I'll take
I
a
shake
hand and
his
say
hand.
nice to meet you. Or you do.
Nice to meet you, buddy.
Good to meet you, dear.
look holy, and you look holy. What's up, holy brothers?
A fellow man of the cloth, I see.
Man
So-
of the grape. Actually, man of the water.
That's a water to wine joke right there.
Rotten time.
So
Oh.
Dio,
have a seat.
Cleric
Come
of
on, how you
Jexel,
talk-
is
table
our
Have a
primary NPC in this
Okay,
session,
stop
who's
looking
getting the
around.
party a
You
little
got any
involved.
holy
He's
beverages
sort
here?
of supposed to be their guide in Avalar. He was going to be the person who gave them all the instructions on everything and sort of showed them around the area, but here he is, introducing them to, hey, remember how that guard earlier said don't kill anyone in town? Well, here's somebody who's been dead, and here are the clerics who are looking after them. And reminder, don't kill anyone in town, otherwise they will see through the eyes of the dead and hunt you down. And we're really selling the point to the players not to fuck with anyone in town. This will be important later in the campaign.
Well, that really depends on how highfalutin you want to get. You know,
And we
can't tell the
changed
difference
music to
between
something
wines,
more
but
light and
some
happy.
people can. But
So anyway, Cleric of Jexel, Dio.
Some people
His, he's got a quest for these folks. And the quest here, it does a couple of things. One, it introduces and reinforces the concept that take your shit outside of town. Town is a safe place. Town is a safe place for everyone, which helps us with our long rests, which helps us go, like, if we get to town, we don't have to worry about shit. We can always safe rest in town. Towns are safe, even from monsters and even from, like, bad people. The other thing means if you run into an enemy in town, you're fucked, because the enemy is safe in town, because if you fuck with your enemy in town, then the clerics are going to come down and get you, and you're going to get screwed and killed and blah, 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 blah. The other thing that Cleric Dio, Cleric of Jexel, is doing is introducing us to some mercenary work, some like straight up, I need you to do a favor for me work. And the other thing he's introducing us to is heroes a little bit more, trying to underscore this age of heroes and people doing heroic things concept, where he needs them to go fight this flicker red scale person.
And two holy people and a kid to watch. It's like Jexel has shined his magnificent light down upon me and giving me exactly what I need, which is what he does, because he's the god of fortune.
What do
Right?
you need? Taste testers?
There's never a shortage of those.
Well,
No, you know Flicker Red Scale, right? We got some beef, and she's waiting outside, saying her name like it's an ordinary thing. Like, you know, this hero that everybody knows about, trying to make the world feel lived in, and just casually dropping hero names by my temple to kill me, and I just want you to get rid of her. Explaining a relatively complicated, or a new concept to people in just a casual way. This, like, yeah, there's a person out there who's going to kill me, and she's just waiting to kill me, and I know that she's waiting to kill me, and everybody knows that she's waiting to kill me, but no one's going to do anything about it, so I'm going to hire you to do something about it. We're trying to make the world breathe a little here. You know Flicker Red Scale?
No. Why does she want to kill you? Sorry.
You know sorcerers and heroes, and they're all blood and guts and brave, and I'm the best. Well, she came to me, Dio, Cleric of Jexel, for a blessing, because she likes the gambles, and she lost her money. She's not a good gambler. But she thinks I gave her a bad gift. She thinks that I gave her a false blessing, and that it's my fault that she lost all of her money and all of her people's money over to the Dragon's Den, to the Dungeon Master. Now, the Dragon's Den is the name of a gambling den, obviously, and the Dungeon Master is the name of the person who runs the gambling den. And this is my favorite joke of the campaign so far that I made just for myself, and I don't care if anyone else is amused by it. But the Dungeons and Dragons motif of the Dragon's Den with the Dungeon Master is deeply tickling to me, and I'm very proud of that joke. Makes me happy. Sure. I did it for me, not for you. And so now she's sitting on top of my temple, and waiting me to come, and then she's gonna get her revenge. And yours truly, Dio, Cleric of Jexel, is a holy man, and I don't want to be filled with holes, so I'm looking for some hero slayers.
You want her dead or just scared off?
Well, I just want to get to my temple, but I don't want to die. So, kill her, get her to promise not to kill me, but fire sorceresses, they're all hot-tempered and stuff. Probably better just to kill her, because then you could also take all of her stuff, and then the money I give you for doing it would be compounded. Well, actually, she doesn't have any money because she lost it all in the gambling den, the Dragon's Den.
How much does Dio pay for this? Cleric of Jexel. Dio? Cleric of Jexel.
Cleric of Jexel. I made money off of her by selling blessings and by selling my aforementioned wine. And there's some proceeds, donations left at my temple. And I think for Flicker Red Scale, the fire sorceress hero, touched by flame and all, I think a reasonable price for her head is a good 400 gold pieces.
All right, well, Dio.
Pretty good price. That's twice what they got for the bandits, I believe.
Cleric of Jexel.
That's my name.
I think we will have to discuss this with ourselves, but presumably you're still going to be here in the morning.
Well, I'll be here in 10 minutes, another 20 minutes, probably a couple more hours. And I can make sure to come by again in the morning. Late morning or early afternoon.
We've had a little bit of a long day, you see, and I think
we're gonna skip that a little bit. So, what? The idea here. Wait, was there something good here? I can't remember.
I fight with magic.
Oh, you're a sorcerer. Right. They've got a little conversation. There's a little role play. They do a pretty good job here. The core concept is that our players are going to have to get rid of this flicker person. And it's a pretty straightforward quest. It's a holy man saying, a sorceress wants to murder me. Would you please murder her before she murders me, and I will pay you to do so. Which is straight up mercenary work. And it's what I thought would be the easiest bait Tell me more about the
bait's not the right word, but like the easiest quest to accept. And I was a little surprised at the moral bargaining and dilemmas that our party went through over this quest. The like, well, maybe we can pay her to run off. Maybe we can, chase her. Maybe we can just negotiate. Maybe we can. And the party went through quite a few alternative options to dealing with this problem. And I was very pleasantly surprised by it. In the end, it did come down to a fight because, as we mentioned before, as I was trying to explain, her personality type, which I had written out ahead of time, is very aggressive. She's a fire sorceress, and that says a lot about her personality. And this is one of those areas where your over prep can sometimes hinder your game, because if you had barely known anything about her, if you just had like flicker red scale, fire sorceress, here's the stat block, maybe you would feel more comfortable improvising the character, and when the party comes to her and tries to negotiate with her, maybe since if you haven't figured out her personality in advance, you might be willing to be like, ooh, that was a really good idea that you guys came up with. She's totally receptive to that. But when you overplan and you like plan things out in detail, and then you're like, ooh, this is this character's motivation and how they think, and the party like completely misses the mark and doesn't pick up what you're putting down, and you're like, she's hot-tempered, she's angry, she's out for blood, she wants to kill, and the party's like, what about a reasonable explanation? And you're like, she's not going to accept a reasonable explanation. Like,
what brings it to you?
it's a little bit harder to accept optional routes when you're already pretty fixated on what an NPC's actions are probably going to be. But if you don't overplan, if you're like, yeah, flicker red scale, fire sorceress, she's mad at this guy, and the party is like, reasonable negotiation, it's a little easier to go with it. So this is one of the problems of having everything planned out in detail, is it inherently makes you less flexible. And you could try to be more flexible, you could try to throw away but the more you plan out, the less flexible you are, the less room you give yourself to improvise, and the more you rely on your pre-planned things. On the other hand, the cooler your stuff can be because it's pre-planned, you've had the time and space to make it happen, but then yada.
To discuss things. Luckily, it's not quite nightfall, so no one else is hanging out in the room.
I get a bed in a corner. This is not unusual to me. I mean, I think if I grew up in a temple, this is probably the kind of room that I would have slept in.
Skip.
One side of the story. Shouldn't we hear both sides before we pass judgment at the bare minimum?
He's so right. He's absolutely right. Some drunken priest tells you to go murder someone for him. You get both sides of the story. Great job, Mr. Moon. Well done.
You're the leader of this expedition, Vasher. So I'll do what you say. I'll follow orders. However, to get my good king back. But
the audio track that we're playing here is
we go there. We
City Streets, Dark Streets,
what she's doing is
Dark
wrong,
City,
and then
something like that. And it's my go-to, like, we're sort of planning a mission. We're doing a little bit of spy stuff. We're doing a little bit of roguish stuff. I'm still looking for the perfect, like, we're talking about planning our mission track, and it hasn't come up yet, but this is a pretty decent stab at that direction.
Now, might be a little bit dishonest, this, because Dio over here probably thinks we're going to go straight there with our shiny new weapons, but we all know that we got to rest here for a week. So we could get him to give us
Actually, I think this is noir procedural.
Half at the end. That way he's committed and we'll wait. Or we could tell him that we're going to have to wait a week and then we'll do it.
Are we at the start of our rest week or the end?
You're in the middle. You spent a couple days selling some stuff, took a day to put together his component pouch, walked around the city. There's a really big temple to Illumis, the god of the sun god in here, like separate from all the other temples. He's got his own district. Side note.
Okay, so we can
that temple had absolutely no relevance to the question that he asked. He asked, how far are we into our rest? And I ended up talking about a large temple that was sitting nearby. And I did that because I forgot to mention it earlier, and it was important to me, but it doesn't matter for our story in any way, shape, or form. And so when he's like, how far are we into our rest? All I needed to say was halfway, but in typical DM fashion, I talked a lot more, and I was like, cool temple! Oh yeah, but that's not your question.
Always going to negotiate before we attacked her.
Maybe
I'll
I'm a
kick it
fortune
back.
teller, but I've just got kind of a hunch that we might end up getting burnt a little bit before we draw any weapons. If you catch my drift, I think that things might come to a head rather quickly.
That's what separates us from other kingdoms. We talk before we draw our swords.
That's it. Yeah, you're right.
And these are really good role-playing points from our players here.
Cassian, you gonna go get the boy? Does he get a vote in this, or?
All right, we're gonna skip
Gods.
ahead. Skip.
Dead.
Skip back a little.
It's gonna be a good one. Yeah, 10.
That's
Okay.
all right. Yeah, this guy sounds great. Oh my God, why? So what's going on with Good King Arnold now?
He's the greatest man to ever live. He's currently
Dead.
he's dead. Yeah.
Oh man, that sounds like you people could really use a king like him.
We could, and we certainly will. We
We're
will
trying
bring him
to-
back even.
Trying to sell it. You know, we're trying to sell the make sure to resurrect the king.
Dead is dead. Dead is like Zed.
We're gonna resurrect
That's
him.
your
Oh,
Pulp Fiction throwback.
I mean, I know Martha looks down on, gives her gifts to people sometimes, but that's a big one. And no offense, but you don't look like a cleric of Martha.
I'm not a cleric of Martha, indeed. However,
There's nothing like telling players that they can't do something to make them feel like they got to do it. Having your NPCs be like, you'll never do this, is just great fuel for the fire.
as well as this continent.
Yeah. Well, okay, hold on. So you're telling me you're not just some dude with a sword. You're a full-fledged hero here, huh? And you're on a holy quest. Roy, why didn't you tell me about the holy quest?
Guess what that was for, guys? We're trying to turn these players, these characters, into self-aware heroes. We're trying to underscore the age of heroes and get them to come to grips with, like, we're not just people on a mission. We are, like, epic heroes. You're going to hear me say that so many
greater context of
times.
the stories of
You're
Arcadia,
going to get
first of
sick
all.
of it.
I
before we get
am
into all
from Arcadia, okay? All right? And first off, we like our slavery. Thank you very much. We're happy with it. Secondly, holy quests are great, and Good King Arnold sounds like a good guy. Sounds like you should bring him back. And I wish you luck on your journey. But have you considered my job offering?
We have, and Vasher will speak up.
Oh, what'd you get
And
here?
This is one of the endlessly frustrating things as a DM. When you're tracking in your mind where everyone is, and one player's like, I hang out upstairs, and other people go into conversation. And like 10 minutes later, everyone's having a conversation, except for the one player who made a point of not being there. And then like they pipe in as if they were there the whole time. And you don't want to be like, dude, you're upstairs. You can't join in the conversation because we're supposed to be having fun with our friends around the table. The whole point is that we're here to play some games. And if you want to hop in and do something, come in and hop in and do something. But I feel the need to acknowledge the fact that he had mentioned that he wasn't coming down for this. And so having the drunken cleric be like, when did you get here? Acknowledges the fact that he wasn't here to begin with, but he came here. It gives his character an excuse for being here by mentioning that we didn't realize you were here.
Yeah.
Just minutia that are frustrating to the DM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gonna do
hey,
it?
Vasher.
I have very little patience for the, and before I insult him, I'll just say idle chatter.
Yeah.
How does this sound? Our plan is to go and take half of the money up front,
Mm-hmm.
negotiate with that half of the money to get her to leave, and if she leaves and accepts to leave you alone, you give us the other half. If she doesn't leave, we kill her, and you pay us the other half as well.
You want some money up front is what I'm hearing. And I To be honest, I like the stories I heard. This Go King Arl guy sounds great. Your holy quest sounds awesome. I want, I always like to touch the lives of heroes as they come by. But we got to leave it up to our dearly beloved Jexel, God of Fortune, to tell you how much you get up front. And this, of course, is improvised because I didn't know they were going to ask for half up front. But the idea of leaving it up to the God of Luck to tell me how much to pay you up front is just, I just love it. I love having the opportunity to roll dice and to leave things up to the dice. It's just, that's the way I like to do it. And I should use more Clerics of Jexel. And he reaches around into his component pouch and pulls out a set of dice and prepares to throw them on a table. It will be 4 100-sided dice. You can roll them, 4d100.
One each?
Yeah, each of you can roll a 1d100, and we'll see which is fun, but super slow and annoying. It's way easier for one person to roll 4d100 than for 4 people to tab back to roll 20 and roll their dice and add it up, and someone's not going to be paying attention. See how much you can get in advance.
Nice.
Never lucky.
62. Very happy with that.
18, 27.
Hey, everyone's paying attention this
53.
time.
Not
Good
too
job.
bad.
It's below. It's a little bit below average.
160.
160. Yep.
Yeah.
Do we have
Nice even
40
number.
gold that we could add?
Why do we need? Why
if
do we
we're
need
gonna
to get
if
to
we're gonna
200?
make the deal, then yes, we do.
Okay, so
Wait.
we could just make the deal more rounded, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Hang on, what was the deal? Giving her half the money to leave.
Mhm.
Yes.
Are we still doing that?
Well, it would be just.
That's gonna be the offer.
That's a weird
We're
deal,
going to make the offer.
right?
Oh, okay.
Because if you think about
We
it
should just
from
tell her, she's in the wrong. She shouldn't be threatening people.
Dio's point,
She lost to cards. That's her
if
business.
if he's gonna pay these heroes 400 gold to kill her,
my business how you get this stuff done. But Jexel did
couldn't he just have paid her 400 gold to have her walk away? She was coming after him for money, and he said no, and so she said, "I'm gonna kill him instead. I'm gonna kill you instead." So if 400 gold could have solved these debts, wouldn't he have just given it to her? Does it, at the end of the day, does it matter whether you hire someone to kill her for 400 or whether you just hand her 400? Why would she ever accept half of the money that he was going to pay to have her killed? If he was going to spend that up to 400 GP, you think he just would have paid her back? It's the same amount of money out of his pocket. So why? I don't know why they thought they could bribe their way through this one. I do like the approach of let's try a non-violent solution. Let's try to pay her off. I think I did try to talk up bribery as a very legitimate way to get in good with people here. But this is the one situation where bribery doesn't make any sense. And like so many other situations that they're facing, bribery would make huge amounts of sense. You come up to a city wall, the city doesn't want to let you in, bribe the guard. Totally great. You want permission to do something, bribe the person who's in charge. All sorts of situations. But when there's a fight over he owes me money and he doesn't want to pay, and so he's going to hire you to kill me, obviously it's not going to be enough money. Otherwise you wouldn't even, the fight's over money and you're being paid the money. It's fine. It's fine.
And it's the reason that you said.
Yeah. She came to me. She paid 50 gold for a blessing. I gave her a blessing. She lost all of her money and her followers' money in the Dragon's Den, the gambling den, to the leader there, the dungeon master. And I can't help but make that joke over and over again. Fire mages, fire sorcerers, really hot-tempered, really quick to anger. They're not the most level-headed of people in the world. You and I, totally cool. Fire sorceress, got a hot vengeance streak through her. A dragon burned down her village. She was protected by a passing cleric, and the intertwining of magic set her soul on fire, and so she's got a vendetta to get strong enough to go kill the dragon that burned down her village or some bullshit like that. Real chump stuff. But yeah, it's true. I gave her a blessing and she didn't think it was good enough. She blames me.
We'll go have a talk with her and get her off your back. Go ahead, man.
About blah blah blah, blah blah blah.
As a backup, and look.
They talk about some
Well-connected
stuff.
plan.
They talk about some stuff. The only other important thing that is going to happen pre-fight, and we'll talk about the fight in a little bit more detail. The only other interesting thing here is that when they go to the fight, Dio, Cleric of Jexel, brings along a bunch of people to watch the fight. And once again, you know what time it is. It's time to talk about why we're bringing people to watch the fight, is because we're trying to promote the hero angle of the age and really, bring forth this notion that it's not, parties and states and warring factions. It is individuals with great power who have like followers. And it's these individuals who are clashing with each other that are defining the age. We're trying to emphasize the age of heroes by bringing out a crowd to watch the fight. And there is some historical accuracy for stuff. Once upon a time, long time ago, when wars would be fought, armies would line up on either side. They would camp there, and then in the morning they'd position themselves. And maybe whenever all the positions were right, they'd come at each other and fight. And sometimes you might spend a day or two just moving troops back and forth and positioning them. And people would come out and watch, even as late as the first battle of the Civil War. Well, not about Fort Sumter, but one of the other major first battles of the Civil War. There were like citizens that came to watch the first battle on a picnic side, and like, oh, the North and South are going to fight, blah 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 blah. These things were sort of spectator sports. So having a crowd come out to watch this fight is historically accurate, and it also helps us bring up the Age of Heroes angle.
Roy Waystar's animal companion back.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm gonna go to a map place.
Yeah.
So
Obviously.
Let's go to
Check
Let's see where
enemy.
greater issues. It's developed to personal or professional issue. Well, if it's personal, perhaps Valthara.
Oh, okay. Actually, there is some other good stuff in here. There's a scene here where Greenzerg brings Pokemon Challenge into a temple, and that was really, really well done. I had forgotten about
Words of
this.
wisdom.
Of course. We're here
I
to serve.
look around for a donation bowl.
Yep, it's right there.
I drop a gold coin in it. And I will head over to the Velmontorius statue. Do the statues of the gods look differently here?
Yes, they do. Each character.
That's a great question. And it's one of the things that I always want to emphasize, is that in my campaigns, there's a lot of flex. A god or goddess may look one way in one culture and another way in another culture. Or even in the same culture, they may look one way in one era and another way in another era. And I want to keep reinforcing, wherever optional, wherever I can, and thank you, Greenzerg, for bringing it up, that there's a lot of flex. And there's a lot of perspective change. And having the gods look different in different places is a great example of like the perspective of the divine and the perspective of religion and the perspective of people. And we don't even agree that the same god looks the same way. And so we're going to design them differently or like make their images different. And I think that really says a lot about the world if you look at it, even with your eyes half open. And I think it also helps fuel the core concept that our campaigns are all stories we are being told after the fact. It's like reading the Iliad. If you read the Iliad, which is, the Achaeans fighting the Trojans, I don't know how to tell you this, but it's not an accurate account of that battle, if the battle ever happened. It's the story of how that battle happened. And so when we watch this campaign, it's the story of how this event unfolded. And this is a story, and it might not be the actual way events transpired. And so when you hear someone else reference this campaign in a later campaign, you might hear the details explained differently. And if you take, watching the campaign versus all of the stories that are told about the campaign, somewhere in the middle of that is going to be like the truth of what actually happened during that expedition. And this is just like the most detailed version of that story that we're going to get to see. And having the gods look different in different ways helps underscore that, each time we have a campaign, we are telling a story about a perspective of this world, and all of these perspectives are going to be slightly different, and the gods are going to look slightly different, and their behaviors might be slightly different, and the way that people talk about them might be slightly different. And it's not, here is a monolithic truth, and everyone's going to interact with this monolithic truth in the exact same way over and over again. Everything's just a little bit fuzzy. And what are we really... It's a nice way of talking about human nature, which is so easy to get pigeonholed in, and it's so easy to how do you say, to look at a character from history and say, this person was blank. And then, if you read a lot about that person, eventually you'll develop a more nuanced view of them. And then when you relate them back to yourself and be like, oh, they're just like me. Yesterday I was kind of an asshole, but today I'm actually nice. And most of the time I'm nice, but yesterday I was an asshole. And oh, hey, maybe I'm a complicated dynamic creature who is changing all the time. Oh, the historical character. I've always thought of them as like this monolithic force, but they're also a complicated dynamic person who is capable of blah, blah, good and bad, and being right and being petty and being generous and being selfish. And you can do all of these things and be the same person. And there's a lot of different perspectives you can have on that. And that's one of the things I really want to get at with my grand storytelling of all of these campaigns, is the fuzziness of people, and of societies, and of history, and of our idols and our deities and our monsters and our creatures, and that everything is fuzzy. Everything is sort of like a blob of stuff that is constantly moving about, and to try and like put anything into a well-defined, clearly this is it box, is inherently an oversimplification. And so Green-Zerg asking, do the statues of the gods look different here than in my homeland, is just like a really nice microcosm of that bigger concept that I am so desperately struggling to explain through our gameplay.
Characterization of the god is ever so slightly different than you would have them back home. Here, Velmontarius is depicted not as like a tall, strong, like handsome warrior. Instead, he is depicted as like a sort of heavy-set, older man with a beard and like a large belly, sitting cross-legged on a soft cushion with one hand out on each side, like as if he's carefully considering and weighing the evidence before him. Whereas back home for you, he's always like, the strong sheriff who's off to go deal with the problem. That's it's a much different vibe.
Question of perspective.
And the statues are changed to match.
I will go and sit cross-legged, if that makes sense, in front of the Velmontarius statue, and Roy, come and sit with me.
This is such a nice little
on the
scene
ground
here.
Like normally at first.
We get this older clerical figure who has been really frustrated by this young, haughty, self-obsessed, noble, spoiled brat, and like takes him under his wing and tries to help him through his moments. And it's just, it doesn't help the campaign achieve its objectives. It's just character bonding, and it's just one character looking out for another. And this is just, it's such a nice moment. I think we ended up awarding as much XP for this conversation as we did for, hold on, where's my XP notes here?
Suggests that your position now is a lot more like mine.
My dad sometimes says that, like, the people who don't have that, maybe if they worked a little harder instead of praying all day, maybe they could have what we have.
Yeah. Your dad's a
I'm having
wise
trouble
man, I'm
finding
sure,
my notes.
but lack of experience will dull even the sharpest of perspectives.
I don't think I gave enough XP for this
Yes,
conversation.
true. I agree. Yeah, of course.
Well, I'm not going to tell you how to pray, but if I give you some advice, it's
I
empty your
definitely
heart,
undervalued
be
this
honest with your
conversation during
intentions,
XP
and
giving.
You'll feel your soul
I gave it
filled.
the same XP as, you know, as 2 minions.
I'll try.
And yeah, I
No,
will
no, no,
pray
no.
to
This should have been worth at
Valentarius
least 4
for
minions.
Justice for Dio, the cleric of Jakku.
More.
And
Just pray.
And the is the whole sphere, like all.
Alright, moving on. They do another thing. They go to the old quarter and
by
they
dark.
resurrect,
Are you sure?
or they get the
You haven't found one, but you have found
What do you call it?
like a master guild hall. that has, like,
the
registrar,
Pokemon.
and
You get the
there's, like,
Pokemon.
these, like,
They also hire a city guide, which is great. I really like the idea of hiring people to show you around, hiring a guide to get you around the city, hiring a guide to get you through the woods or the wilderness. These are great tools that you should have at your disposal, and they really help sell the we're strangers in a strange land. And if they didn't want to hire a guide, we would have hand waved and it probably would have taken the same amount of time or anything. But having the guide, like hiring the guide, is such a nice way of like feeling into the city where you're like, we don't want to deal with trouble, we just want to get the thing done. We're gonna hire a city guide for like 5 silver or whatever.
Past the winding canal.
No other way near it, or
Yeah, but that,
Where are we here?
upriver, there's a town called Bellwind. That's right where
No, let's go back a little bit.
destruction. There used to be an entire civilization. The first civilization, the first great civilization, has gone. Nothing but ash and ruins and burned sand. It wasn't a desert when the gods first set foot there. It was
We're
supposed to be some
talking
sort of
about the place that
garden
they're going.
paradise.
We're talking about the early days of the campaign right here. We're talking about where this pyramid that they're headed to is and what it used to look like once upon a time. A wonderful civilization, the first civilization, a garden paradise, a great place, and now it's nothing but ash and a desert. Even though this is the Age of Heroes, it's early on in the Age of the World, like there were still historical events that happened before this.
Now, say the sand is the bones of the dead, crushed into a fine dust. I wouldn't go there.
Adventurers gotta go. There's things to be seen, treasure to be had. Thank you very much, Scribe.
Well, if you need to go there, just take the river. Watch out, though. The Badlands are notoriously bad. Stay away from the
Good job.
volcanoes.
Good job improvising
Would
there,
there
Neal.
be, there may not be maps, but are there people who know their way through the Badlands?
Just follow the river.
You know, they're asking all the right questions at all the wrong times. Like, we've got a quest directly in front of us. You don't need to worry about how to get to the pyramid until you're on your way.
As in direction. I mean,
D&D parties often
Badlands. They know
have
that.
like 5 quests and they try to make a little progress on all of them at the same time, which is nice because it sort of splits up your activities. But like, we're on our way to deal with Flicker Red Scale. We only have, I don't know, an hour and a half left in this session today, everybody. Let's just focus on, you can worry about getting up the river once you've dealt with this person. You can delay this conversation into a more coherent time. Let's try and time manage a little bit better. And so my NPC gives these really, straightforward answers about like, we'll just follow the river. And like, they're non-committal. We're not saying there's no maps. We're not saying that it's just like, deal with this problem a little bit later, follow the river, get to Bellwind, someone there will help you out. I'm trying to get the players to like, not worry about the navigational issues to the very end of the campaign when like right now we're just trying to deal with this one thing right here. Like, why are we looking at something much down the
You're
road?
not a funny man.
And so I do my best to give them their answers, but in such a way that will move the story along. Come on, let's get where we're supposed to go.
Your mother was wrong, and I'll leave.
No one ever gets that one either.
I think you need to work on your material, and then I'll leave as well.
Explain the
Probably a
joke.
good joke. We're going back for it.
No one ever laughs.
That's a great help. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't be of more assistance. Did you need something written down? Transcribed?
No.
Transcribed? It's a scribe. Did you need something? I mean, it's a job. Transcribed is not that great of a pun on scribe, but like, not even a half smile from the party. No one ever laughs. I do these things for me. About half of the campaign is built to tickle my own fancy, and I'm okay with it.
Wait, I don't understand it. Can you explain the joke?
No, it's fine. Move on.
You're not a funny man.
Yes, I am. Shut up, Mr. Moon. I'm hilarious.
I should have been a stand-up comic.
Your
My mother always said I should have been a stand-up comic.
Your mother was wrong, and I'll leave.
No one ever gets that one either.
I think you need to work on your material, and then I'll leave as well. But as I say material, I'll point at as like paper and stuff.
That wasn't even that good. God damn it. That
We'll
was
use that one in
any
the future.
ink?
fine. It's fine. I'm not salty about it at all, okay? It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Our party can meet up if we need to do a quick transfer of cash and then go to the old temple, the old district, to do a little ritual. We can do that.
They go to the old district. They do a
We'll
ritual.
have it back 2 feet
They
away.
hire a guide to get them there.
Spins. Technically, you do get XP. It's not enough. Maybe not. Knees. His knees are broken because of the thunder. It's so
Here we go. Here we go. This is where we're going to start.
Cleric of Jexel is already at the city gates, and he's got a whole bunch of people with him, and he's been riling them up.
So this is a couple of things. As aforementioned, it's the Age of Heroes. We're trying to promote the heroicism of the age. This is also a little bit of a nudge to tell the players, hey, maybe your negotiation strategy for the person who's designed to be like angry and mean and violent isn't going to work. And so here's a bunch of people to come watch the fight. And they're expecting a fight. And so here is, a little bit more fuel to nudge you in the direction of combat because this person is combat centric. And their personality is angry fire lady who wants money back. And and it's also a little bit of like, the cleric of Jexel, wine and luck and fortune and gambling has like brought a crowd with him to like amp up his own personality and his own reputation because he's got his own shrine and he didn't tell you about it. And so now here's a whole big crowd to come watch your fight. I really enjoyed this scene
as you get closer, he goes, and that's them.
when this happens.
That's my boy. They're gonna get her. Come on, everybody. Let's go watch this shit. It's gonna be great. Come on. Let's go take a look. Oh, okay. Have I told you about Roy Waystar? Dude, this guy summons lightning bugs, okay? All right. And that over there is Vasher. He's a paladin and trainee. He's gonna bring down thunder and lightning like you've never seen. But also, you know who else is the Thunder Lord of the party over here? This dude, the old man with the broken knees, his knees are broken because of the thunder and the bass that comes out of his ass when he blows people away. And the big man with the two-handed sword, he's the real killer of the group. They're gonna take care. We're gonna be able to get to the temple, everybody. Don't worry about it. The heroes have got it. We totally got it. Everybody, he runs over. What's your party name?
I've been trying to get them to get a party name all session long.
The Lazarus expedition.
For the
That's
Lazarus
just dumb thing.
expedition, everybody, come on!
If they had stuck with that would have been great, but no. They don't come up with a solidified party name. They waffle on it back and forth, and now they're stuck with Roy and the Waystars, sessions later.
And he tries to get everybody all ramped up, and a crowd begins to follow you out into the desert. Dio's, talking to them the whole time. That's not the right track. And he will also lead you in the direction because you don't really know.
I ask him to.
Half an hour. Where the
Blah, blah, blah.
What's important?
Make attention right.
Blah, blah, blah.
You can visit the temple.
All right, here we
I'll be
go.
right-
Let's skip the very start of this.
Question.
All right, so here is
know her
our
name, I wrote it down,
battle.
so.
Unfortunately, my camera's slightly blocking some of this.
The party with their warhorse
This
and their
battle.
lightning bug, firebug,
Is
arrive.
Vasher riding on top of it?
I had plans for this
I
battle.
probably would be,
The
yes.
stupid fucking horse gets in the way of all of the plans. Vasher insisting on riding his horse up these narrow paths gets everything so awkward
Can we
and
see
so
her at the top of
fucked.
this cliff? Yeah.
Yes, you can.
The horse in the desert is just a pain,
Spread out.
and yet it's like the
Go ahead,
defining
use up wherever you
characteristic
want.
of this campaign.
I don't want to get fireballed.
Nick
be right next to the
immediately
horse
moving
man,
away from the
Koibu.
rest of
Hit
the
me with
party.
it.
Cool. From up atop, she calls down below. The temple
You see that measuring?
off.
Hold on. Do you see
Next to
that
the
measuring
horseman,
right there?
Koibu.
Where is it?
She-
There. Nick is positioning his character ahead of time to be within range and figure out where he needs to go in order to cast his spells. He is very wisely and adeptly battle strategizing ahead of time. Similarly, I have sort of battle strategized ahead of time on her positioning for range spells and the lot. And I think I ended up with her being just a little bit closer so that she could be, you know, in a more visible spot. It's fine.
He calls down
fine.
below. The temple's closed off. Not until Dio comes and pays his debts. Tell Dio, Cleric of Jexel, to come see me before you can visit the temple.
Right. They're going to talk. They're going to argue for a little bit.
It's more
Blah, blah,
beneficial
blah.
for you to leave this temple open where he can generate revenue to pay you back.
So here's the other thing. You're going to negotiate
want
with the
his money.
person.
I want his
You know,
head.
she's here to kill him. When has someone been like sitting, lying in wait with a whole gang ready to murder someone, and you've been able to casually talk them out of this without any new information, without any additional bells or whistles, just like, what if you didn't kill them?
Bandits here, holding people to ransom.
If you're gonna try to argue somebody out of combat, you need something useful rather than just like, have you considered not doing the thing that you're committed to doing?
Got you there.
Spend more time listening and less time making threats.
And I think what we have right here
Position,
is the party doesn't
at the
want to
right here.
be the one to start the violence. The party doesn't want to be the one who's like drawing first blood. They have the innate desire to like find a casus belli here. They're hired to come kill these people, but they don't want to just be like, we're hired to kill you, so now we're gonna walk up the mountain and kill you all. They don't feel comfortable with that, and so their arguments are half-baked. Their arguments are trash. And they are waiting for the enemy to either open fire automatically on them, or not automatically, but to open fire first on them, or they're waiting for the enemy to say something that will like absolutely make it 100% moral and certain that they can go do this. Like, the party is not wanting to fight, but a fight is inevitable, and the negotiations back and forth are weak. They're so weak. Which, at the time, as a DM, I found a little frustrating, but in retrospect, is really... It reminds me a lot, it reminds me, oddly enough, of the onset of the First World War, where Archduke Franz Ferdinand had been assassinated, and Austria-Hungary gave Serbia a list of demands that they had to meet, which were ridiculous demands that no country could ever agree to, and they had to agree to them in an incredibly short amount of time, otherwise war would be declared, which is sort of the opposite of what we're seeing here, but they're kind of the same in that the demands and the arguments are perfunctory, and it's sort of like a ritual that people are going through in order to justify what's happening down the line, right? Austria-Hungary gave these ridiculous demands and said, you know, you are responsible for the death of our Archduke, and so you must do these things, otherwise we will declare war on you. And that is like, they know Serbia is not going to meet those demands. And so they're doing this to give themselves like, well, at least we tried to to negotiate with them, but they couldn't be negotiated with. And the players are over here being like, have you considered not killing him? Like, maybe you should let him get to the temple so he can make some money. Like, what if you were just fucking chill about things, yo? Which is stupid and ridiculous, and it's not going to work. And they're sort of like perfunctory demands in order to say, well, at least we tried to, like, obviously these aren't working. And I think the players know these aren't working. And the DM knows, everyone knows that this negotiation is half-hearted and no one's even really trying. No one's bringing anything to the table here that's really going to make a difference. And so in retrospect, I actually find these negotiations quite delightful because they feel so very human. They feel so very like, I don't know. I mean, some other force out there give me a reason, so I have to do the thing that I'm here to do anyway.
Everybody, let's go home.
All right. As she's doing
I'm
this, I
glad
cast
you're
my
finally
spell.
seeing sense.
The minions cackle.
I position myself just behind this rock nail so I can dip back behind it, away from any errant firebolts after I cast my spell. Yes, and I would
frickin'
like
rock.
to cast Guiding Bolt on
Ooh.
21 damage.
No.
21 to hit, not damage.
21 to hit, yes.
Your guiding bolt sails through the air. She is indeed within 120 feet of you, just barely. You can't click it faster. I'm so sorry.
You're
And
quite the fool now.
Yep, there it goes again. All that text
go
and
ahead
chat.
and roll your damage.
Joke's on you, because I'm going to roll 21 damage on this, right? It's 4d6. Be prepared to be amazed.
That's pretty good. It's like a
Oh
super...
my god!
Christ.
Jesus, that's a lot of damage. Look at that. Watch her HP
There's the
bar
YouTube
shrink.
short.
That's an outrageous roll.
Tell me
That is
she's
an
fucking dead.
outrageous roll.
I know.
That's
She's dead,
crazy.
she's dead, isn't she? She's level 5. She's got 5
no, she's
d6
not
health.
even close to dead.
I'd be scared though.
But
That's half her HP right there.
my.
That's a
you
lot
absolutely
of
need to roll
damage.
initiative right now.
It's ridiculous.
Does Nick get to roll back in? Or is that his?
Um,
Yeah, I get to roll in.
Yes,
Unless you want
everyone
to just put me in
rolls
first
initiative.
God, I hate initiative in this fucking edition.
I quite like. I
Just
like the
kidding.
way it
I
rolls.
rolled a 17. I like it.
Classic mood. All right, so we're getting into the battle here, and we're going to talk a little bit about this battle. So what we've done here is we've given the players
You should
No,
not
you don't have
exhaustion
exhaustion.
like a longish battle with multiple phases, where we've got 4 people on the low ground, then like another 4 people on the next level, and then 5 people on the level after that, and then the final spellcaster up on the top. So there's a lot of things for the players to fight through. But they aren't going to get swarmed all at once. We're giving the players an example of like a hero with a bunch of dudes, but we're not going to deal with like 50,000 initiatives and 50,000 enemies moving all at once. We're not going to deal with the whole 20-man squad or whatever it is. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We're not going to deal with all 15 enemies at once. We're going to deal with the first 5, and then the next 3, and then the next 5, while the hero's back there the whole time doing things. So we've positioned them on this hill where they've got like some pretty good positioning and everything. And our players are also sort of awkwardly having to go up this narrow front. And the whole mission is designed so that there is
Make your attack roll.
a defense in depth, and the players can make consistent progress and fight their way up the hill through one thing after another. It's the idea behind this was big battle in bite-sized pieces, and having the enemy who's ranged be able to like toss down fire at you at will. Now, I think there were a couple of things in here that I could have done well to my advantage. I could have had Flicker, you can see my mouse, yeah. I could have had her move up here, shoot her fire bolts, and then take a couple of steps back and say that because of the heights of the cliffs, you're not going to be able to see her very well. And we actually end up doing that a little bit later. But I could have made a solid argument that even right here, she's behind 25% cover, and back here, she's behind 50% cover. And I could and should have made those arguments, but I didn't think about it in the moment. I also forgot to think about her shield spell quite a few times because I often forget about shield spell, and I often forget that shield spell outright negates magic missiles, which actually was a huge deal at the very end of the fight that I completely forgot about. Once again, I'm making mistakes that have huge ramifications for the campaign. But anyway, on to the beginning of the battle. We get to see Mr. Cassian come on up and immediately drop a minion. Great. Super excited about
I
it.
think that is how the rules work. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't be.
Archers often use cover like that. The thing that we
where are we
want
going
to stay
here?
away from is people dropping prone and then standing up and firing and dropping prone and standing
Right,
up.
we're talking about moving in and out of cover and whether it's okay to like step out of cover, fire your spell, and then step back into cover. And it is legit to do that. But it does sort of possibly set us up for some frustrating moments in game. Mostly if both sides were doing step out, take a shot, and step back again sort of tactics. That would be a little frustrating. It'd be really frustrating when people start to like, maybe sit behind most of cover with attacks readied, and then someone steps out and they all fire, but then someone's like, but I wouldn't have stepped out all the way. I would have like peeked just a little bit. And then you have to have arguments about like how much cover do people get ready to fire at? How much cover can you make shots at? Like it would get really awkward and it would get like very pixely moving, positional. It's a bit of trouble. And I'm glad we don't get into this position. And I will do my best to avoid those sorts of scenarios where you end up with like two teams across no man's land, hiding in trenches or hiding behind barriers and trying to get off shots at others. Like that bogs down into trench warfare, and it could be very, very unfun. And I'm in this situation, unfortunately, Steermere can be in a spot where he can sort of do a little bit of this hiding behind cover and attacking nonsense, which is great in some ways, but it can get a little weird and a little gamey and a little annoying in other ways. And it's one of those things where it seems so cool when the players do it, but when the NPCs do it, it seems lame and unfair and cringy, like healing in combat. And so this was a fine example of its use, and we adapt to it. We end up moving Flicker off the map a little bit because you know what? He is successfully hiding and moving and hiding and moving, and fine.
None of that is going on in this situation, so we are good.
Oh, good. That's how long it took Roy to make his
They didn't
move.
make a concentration check if they already had a spell in effect that had for concentration requirements.
Oh, is there no if you're casting a spell?
Who was he shooting at?
Closest thing in staff guy.
This one over here?
That guy.
This guy.
Yeah.
All right, so
Her in the side.
Roy. Okay, so Roy starts
is there
shooting
no- if
for
you're casting a
some
spell,
reason, and I'm not
concentration
sure
check?
why he's doing
You
this.
Start it and finish.
Roy is targeting this this character way up here, way out of one of these people who's not even in the battle yet. And I don't know why.
Question: Can
That person's not a threat at this moment. If you wanted to sit back and range down your enemies, you could sit back and range down your enemies, but like, why would you be fighting against the people who weren't posing a threat? Why wouldn't you back up Cassian right here? I don't know if this is a role-playing strategy that is being picked for Roy's character. I don't know if this is some sort of advanced strategy that is being picked by Jan here, Pokemon Challenges here, where he's dealing damage to people not in combat. I don't know what it is, but this is the sort of what I'm going to call non-optimal combat decisions that leads to this being such a close fight. Because if Roy had participated in the combat where the enemies were actually facing right now, same thing with Steermere. If this had been 4 players against these 4 minions. These 4 minions would have evaporated so fast and the players wouldn't have taken any damage. But instead, we've got 1 player character who's fighting this character, this player character who's fighting like this group, and then these 2 characters who are fighting these 4 people. And they're really spreading out their damage, and it's going to lead to our players taking an unnecessary amount of damage. And the horse. The horse here is a problem. We've got a narrow pathway. We've got 1 character who's here. We're trying to, like, you know, can the horse climb up this stuff? Can the horse jump up? Like, no, there's a path. We're going to have to, you know, use the path. The horse is not going to be able to leap up a wall or anything like this. And the horse is actually just going to get in the way because it's large, it's weird, it's unmaneuverable, but he saved the horse, so he's going to play with the horse, even though the horse is going to be... You know, horses are great in open battlefields. Horses are great when you've got lots of room to move around. Horses are great for mobility. They're great for horse archery. Horses are not so great in tight, windy areas.
That is way more awkward than trying to start from the ground.
But we find a way to at least engage in combat here.
Against unmounted people, but I also have disadvantage, so I just
So,
make a regular attack.
This works out slightly.
I will just do a regular one-handed attack.
Let's go. You hack him.
Excellent,
Team
excellent.
will
All right.
hit you for 4 bludgeoning damage.
Fix it. I said advantage because being end of my next turn, so
Blah, 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 blah.
And
Nice.
deflect your guiding bolts.
nice.
All right. Blah, blah, blah. Skip ahead a little bit. Vico moves up, and Vico, there's so much awkwardness about Vico that shows up here. He's kind of a weird creature so far. At this point in the game, he doesn't have really a lot of abilities, but we're kind of excited for him to show up. Vico's the lightning bug. And it's meh. And now we have our enemy using her first set of actual spells here. Now, again, managing hero NPCs, especially enemy hero NPCs and their spells, is an interesting concept. Because just like our player characters, they abide by our resting rules. So they're not going to get all their spells back right away. And as a DM, I know that this hero's in a fight for their life, and that this hero might, what do you call it? Might die here. And so as a DM, I know that they should use every spell available in their repertoire. But from a hero's perspective, especially a hero who's got like 14 minions with her, she probably doesn't want to waste all of her combat potential on this battle. She might have to fight this battle, and then she might have to fight this battle again. What if other people come after her? She's in a position where she might not actually be able to afford to waste all of her spells. But from a DM point of view, and from a viewer point of view, you're kind of like, well, why isn't this person, you know, fighting with every single spell in her repertoire to immediately kill the players, right? But that's not the point. The hero here, the enemy here, has to make longer term decisions. So we're going to see her use a mix of spells. She will use shield spells to defend herself. She will use some first level spells like Scorching Ray to attack the enemy. But she doesn't really know who they are. She doesn't really know what their power level is. And she's not going to blow her entire spell list on them unless she absolutely has to. And so she will mix some Scorching Rays with some Fire Bolts, with some other things. And she doesn't just burn all of her high-level spell slots in the first couple rounds of battle. Like, if you knew she were going to fight to the death in this battle and it was going to be a close one from the onset, you'd be like, yes, use all your Scorching Rays right away. But I do my best to not have my NPCs be, like, player killing machines where their only point in existence is to murder the players. I try to, as best as I can, to have them be like independent characters with their own minds and their own motivations and their own desires and their own, like, I'm going to reserve my spells in case I need them tomorrow or in case I need them for the battle the next day.
And then I'm going to... Wait, do I get anything from the beetle?
No.
Okay.
It's gonna be useful, I promise.
I'm gonna action surge and I'm gonna get another attack.
Excellent.
Great sword and lop one of these guys. Here's another
What is
big
happening?
attack.
Okay. Oh, here it is. Here. This is what I was talking about earlier. I want you to watch Nick's measuring right now.
His big great sword and lop one of these guys' heads off.
No. Back just a moment. Watch it. Watch those numbers. They're
Here's
going to
another-
jump from 9.5 right there. Did you see it?
Big attack.
9.2 because he's at 1.8 squares or something like that. But he'll move it back
Cassian will
just
take his
far
big
enough
great sword and lop
where it only looks like it's 1.5 squares. It's only 7.3 feet.
one of
And then
these
he's going to
guys'
measure
off
to another point.
for a 7.
And he's not measuring from center of square to center of square to center of square. He's measuring like partway into this square and then partway into that square. So he's measuring a distance that is less than the actual movement. You can see that maybe you can see here, but the measurement he's making is 4.3 squares. But if you count that out, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares of movement. And I call him out on this because I see it happening a lot. And I don't know why he's got his ruler set to, free ruler, but his measurements are often very coincidentally favorable and make it look like he can always reach a square or two further than he actually can.
15 for hit.
You gotta watch your players,
Gonna be
okay? Nick is a smart guy.
7 damage.
He's a very smart guy. And I think he knows exactly what he's doing. Look at that. He's measured out just to the very, very edge of that square to be like, oh, it's 30 feet. But actually, that's 7 squares. That's not 6 squares, right? We can count it. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But somehow he's been able to finagle the measuring to make it look like he can get to that in 6 squares instead of 7 squares. On to you, Nicholas. I see what you're
and then I'm
doing.
going to...
I see it.
Wait, do I get anything from the beetle?
I see it so much.
Okay.
It's gonna be useful, I promise.
I'm gonna action surge and I'm gonna...
All right, it doesn't matter.
Here's the attack. 23
Cassian's showing up.
for 11.
Outright
Cassian's
kills them,
beating
drops them to the
people.
ground.
I'm gonna move.
You'll be provoking attack of opportunity.
I should be able to move here and stay in his spot,
That's
yeah?
fine.
The guy
Blah, blah, blah. Moving.
If I want Vika to cast a spell for me now,
Yeah.
like the range is touch, right?
So we
would
run
have
into
to
this
be
problem
right
with Vika quite a
now.
bit. I don't know if you could
They
quite
would
hear
have
what
to
he
be
was
next to him
saying.
right now.
Is that Vika moves on Vika's turn and then casts attack spells on Roy's turn. So last round, Vika moved adjacent to an enemy, and then before Roy could go, Cassian attacked and killed that enemy. So now that Roy's turn is here, he wants to cast a spell through Vika, but Vika's enemy is no longer there, and so now Vika's positioning didn't really matter. And this is a problem that we're having when we're trying to use the familiar as a Pokemon. The movement of Vika on Vika's own turn is a little bit frustrating. It might be more fun to control Vika on Roy's turn, where Roy can move Vika, and then Vika can use their own their reaction on Roy's turn in order to cast a spell or something like that. It does make the using their reaction to cast a spell via the mage a little awkward because they're happening on the exact same turn. We could say that Vika goes just right before Roy, or we could say that Vika it would have to be right before Roy, like immediately before Roy. That might be the way to solve the problem. Because I want to empower Pokemon challenges to use Vika as a Pokemon, and I want to come up with some custom spells to give Vika some more survivability so that we can get this fun interplay and this fun mechanic going. And I would like to support this this attempt at play. I think it would be cool. And here we're seeing the limitations of this approach in the way the game is built. And hopefully before our next session, I'll have some solutions, but I don't have them right now. And by the next session, I mean episode 5, because even though this is episode 2 commentary, it's being recorded after episode 4 was played.
I'm gonna use magic missiles on him.
Let's go.
Where is?
All right. Another little while, blah, blah, blah. All right. We have an enemy moving down off of here and then taking some damage because they failed their climbing check. If they had plenty of time, I probably wouldn't have given them a climbing check, but climbing in the middle of battle, they roll a 3, they fall. This makes sense. They take some falling damage. It's all great. And we bring in some more enemies as reinforcements because these guys are getting pretty trashed and thrashed down here. This guy coming down, it originally was designed because these mages are hiding back here. They're not in the front lines. This was going to be the dash over here and like start fucking up the people in the back line approach. But, you know, screwed his strength check. Took some falling damage. And here we can see our automated morale check system coming into play. Unfortunately, I'm calling it a fear save. It should be a morale check. Later, I get the macro fixed. And you can see that it is built here to have a DC built in because getting the dice to include modifiers based on the HP was very, very awkward and didn't make a lot of sense. But what I could do is I could modify a DC based or modify just a string of text based on the remaining HP of the creature. And so instead of having the DC always be 10 and the die modified by their HP, I just had the DC modified by the HP and kept the saving throw as just a straight up willpower check or wisdom check. Wisdom save, technically. And this is just using some very mild scripting with the 5e macros and the automatic, what do you call it? Formatting tables.
They must pass a saving throw. They are not affected.
All right, we're gonna move forward a little bit. Some firebolt spells going off.
I'm going to execute this guy.
Minions miss. Cassian misses. Nothing too exciting. Roy's gonna firebolt.
Can I?
Basher's gonna move past. The horse is still sort of awkward. They gotta like count out the movement, and it's weird. And this guy over here does manage to come up to Roy, but not quite get an attack in yet. And the other minions that were here have come up and around and coming down. This is sort of what we wanted to do. Is we wanted like an ongoing fight, sort of a fight with reinforcements where we could keep bringing enemies in and the party would have to like battle their way through a horde of enemies to get to the cool hero at the back. We wanted the long slog. We wanted the like, you can see the boss, but like there's so many minions, but we're not like getting slogged down by action economy. And so we made this hill-based battle where the enemy comes in waves. And I really stand by the formatting of this battle. But I think the first trying to use the Pokemon approach and like working at the kinks of the Pokemon approach bogged it down a little bit. And I think the horse was awkward and bogged it down a little bit. But otherwise it worked pretty well. All right, moving.
I think he moved on someone else's.
Steamer goes and bashes somebody in the face. Cassian kills and moves past people. Now, the moving past a person like this without provoking attack of opportunity is interesting. I kind of feel like if you're going to move around a person and through a tight area like this, that it really should provoke an attack of opportunity. Like, if this guy is here, he's sort of guarding this zone from anyone getting past him. And you should be able to sort of, like, guard an area and keep someone from getting past you without having to provoke attacks of opportunity, but not as the way the rules are written. It's a little awkward. And we don't bother to stop and sort it out here. But it would be nice,
1 damage.
You know, I feel like you should provoke attacks of opportunity, not when you move away from your enemy. I think if you actually move away, it shouldn't provoke attacks of opportunity. But if you move along or if you move towards an enemy, like if you're in this square and you move this square, like if you're on the diagonal and you move to an adjacent, That should provoke an attack of opportunity. You're getting closer. You're moving into the enemy. Maybe your attack. Pathfinder has a really good use of this, where I think that sort of movement does provoke attacks of opportunity. But also on your turn, you can make a free 5-foot step adjustment, so you can like move 1 square at a time towards them. And I really like that concept.
Yes.
I really do like the mechanics of it.
60 feet, I believe.
I think I've already used 10.
But sometimes
That was 30. That would be...
sometimes I find the extra little rules here and there
All right. So
to be just a few too many things for players, especially new players, to remember, where it's like, you've got this ability, this ability, this ability, and then there's like 6 of these other things that you can sometimes do.
Alright.
And I think it's easier if you've got like, here is a master rule,
Gonna follow as far as he can.
and the master rule has like logical consequences that come off of it, but the number of things that you can do are all still pretty basic. And I haven't found a way to do exactly what I want to do with it yet. But I'm always on the lookout for a way to improve our combat system so that combat feels a little bit more dynamic and you can't just like ignore threats and walk past them. But we're not quite there yet. Now, to get back to the battle, there are 2 people who are off map that are just to the south of here, which we can see. We're at 319 right now. We can see right here, these 2 folks, and they're more or less here to prevent anyone from like scaling this cliff and then scaling this cliff and then like walking up this area. Like, they're over here to guard this right flank, and they don't end up coming into the battle at all. Once the battle gets to about where we are seeing it down the road over here, they realize that it's not going their way, and they decide just to piece the fuck out of this whole thing and not get involved. I respect the move. They did well. I don't think we actually end up talking about these 2 characters. You can't see them when my face is here. They're right behind where my...
Is it?
Sure, but if you want to climb
They're
it,
right there.
get rid of your shield
See that?
and your weapon and take
They more or less don't show up in the battle, and they made I don't know if I called it out or not, but they definitely decided to peace out when it was clear everyone was going to get overrun.
Get to like about 60 feet, right? So
you can get to here.
Look at these Look at these measurements. See how he gets a full extra square from where I got. Hold on, watch.
You can get to here.
The purple one is my measuring, which is locked, so it goes from the center of a square to the center of a square, and it goes to here, and then over here, and over here, and you get 60 feet. But with his measuring, you don't go all the way up to this square, and then we're going to cut across some of these corners, and then we're going to measure out to here, and I call him out in it right around here.
this here.
Is this the spot where I call him out on it?
No, you can get to one of these 2.
Why?
I'm not sure how you're doing it. You're like holding in between squares, and I'm going by the individual squares. So I think you're finding space by clipping corners.
Uh-huh.
That was a very polite, diplomatic way, because I know what he's doing, and I don't know if he's actually doing it. But at this moment in time, in game and right now as we're talking, I assume Nick knows the interface well enough to know exactly what he's doing. I assume that any decision he makes is a very intelligent, intentional decision. And I think what he's saying right now is that he's just sort of loose with the things, and he doesn't realize that it's not measuring right. And he's playing the ignorance card, which he might honestly be. It's late his time when we're playing this game. He hasn't put 100,000 hours into Roll20 like I have. But I trust him so much that I trust that he knows what he's doing. And I think that's exactly what you're doing.
I mean, I'm literally just drawing the arrow. Don't
Well, you're
be so
holding the
cynical.
Alt key while you're doing it so that you don't have to
Because when you set your arrow drawing, you can set to snap to corner, snap to center, or like free arrow. You might be able to do the free arrow. But if you're doing snap to corner or snap to center and you hold Alt, then it no longer snaps, and then you can do the like careful measuring like he's doing. And so I'm assuming he has it automatically set to snap to center, which I actually don't think it has based on how he was drawing earlier as well. So I just to lock into where the corners are.
Oh no, it's not locking into the corners for me anyway.
Oh, you have no snapping set on. Okay, you do snap to center. That'll give you much more easy to measure angles.
Listen, Neal, we don't judge so harshly in
right.
Avalar. Okay.
Have you heard him judge? Have you heard this man judge people before? He is the most judgmental person I know.
So just
maybe not the most judgmental, but one of them.
Just,
So
you know.
sorry. Maybe not one of the most judgmental, but he is a judgmental person. Just thought you were wise and intelligent, and I assumed your actions were all intentional and none of them were accidental.
Oh, you flirt. Okay, I move a bit forward. I'm gonna Sacred Flame this guy and then run up to the cliff face.
Which guy?
This
Excellent,
cheeky
yeah.
chappy up there. So he has to make a dex save.
So we're going to lower our volume and move forward.
In the shed.
You know, I think we all have experienced this at some point in time.
Just quick.
Yes.
That
And I think
when we're
on
playing
Elemental
Dungeons and
Times,
Dragons
treat any ones as
online,
twos. So I think whoever you did
and
one
everyone's
down
got
to
like
should
5 minutes
implement.
between rounds,
I didn't even see
it
that
would
part.
be
I thought it
nice
ignored resistances.
if everyone planned out their actions and knew what they were going to do when their turn showed up.
Big mistake right there.
But it rarely happens. It's usually like, player, it's your turn. And then the player comes back from the void and needs a minute to take a look at the battlefield. Needs a minute to look at their abilities. Needs a minute to look at their movement. And then makes a move, double checks their stuff, finishes their move. And it's been like 4 or 5 minutes to take their turn. And battle could go so much more smoothly and so much faster if people just took the time when they're not fighting
Luckily,
to decide what they wanted to do and made their measurements ahead of time. You know, and yet,
All right. This
and
person
yet,
is not having a
10
lot.
years into doing this professionally, and you rarely see it happen. You so rarely see it. And it's just, I'm not trying to call out any of these individual players for this behavior because it has happened in practically every game I've ever DM'd and every game I've ever played in. It's part of how people play. I probably do the same shit. I try not to when I play. I try to have my plans set up ahead of time and then hop in and make my moves and be done. But then when I do that, when I make my moves, when I plan my moves out in advance and then make them, my turn goes by so fast.
And take cover.
And then it's like 10 minutes before my next turn. And then my turn's over in 20 seconds. And then it's like, and it's a little boring. And so I think there's also a little bit more to the game of like, well, it's my turn. I'm going to take my time on my turn because this is my moment to play the game. And so I'm going to take a couple minutes to play my game. And I think that's sort of a draw. I feel the draw too when it's my turn. But in an ideal world, combat could be 3 times as fast if people just, played the game while other people were playing the game too. It could happen.
How are we gonna get in range of her? I just want to fucking hit her.
Yeah, she's further off the map at this point too, so it's a tough
There's
spot.
like no way to get in range, huh?
Yeah.
Wait, she's how far off the map? 5 feet?
No, she moved. She's 5 feet off. No, she's was 5. She did not move. She took a shot. She moved 15 back, so she's 20 off the map right now.
So to hit with magic missile, you need to be within 100 feet of the token. So you kind of need to be up this first ramp to hit her, I think.
But then also because she's 20 feet back off of that, and then
Yeah,
you're way
you might
down
not be
below,
able to see her.
you wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
see her at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, once you start
I
getting near
think-
these cliffs, you won't be able to see her unless she's at the very edge.
Mhm.
Also, I need to
Okay.
make sure to stay 100 feet within Vika's range if I want to keep controlling it, and we're getting kind of close on that.
Hmm.
The turns can take a while. If everyone would just plan this stuff out ahead of time, it'd be
All right,
legit.
I'm a
Steermere. Or
StarCraft
not
player
Steermere,
move.
Vasher.
But look at Vasher. Look at
I'm
it.
going to move.
He knows what he's doing.
This. Oh, I can get this far, and I'm going to take the dodge action.
Wow,
Okay.
that was great. Look how fast that turn was. Vasher's the man. Vasher's the man. We are going uphill. The horse moves 60 feet. Probably going uphill. The horse should have been more slow. We probably should be accounting for height climbing. But you know, sometimes you don't want to get bogged down in the weeds, especially when things are being bogged down already. So
this minion is done.
let's not worry about it.
They
Let's
are
just let
going
him
to
move his
flee
60 and be
hide
done
behind
with
the
it
rock.
because, hey, he took his turn really fast. Maybe we should reward him with a few extra feet of movement just to, you know, keep the game going. And we can see this minion running and hiding because, as we mentioned before, these minions aren't going to fight to the death. This guy is done. He's injured. He does not want to die. He's just going to hide, and he's going to try and survive the battle. And you can effectively ignore him and let him live.
Well,
And that's one of the themes we're trying to get
Nope.
in the Age of Heroes is that the
this
minions
is
might,
not going well. This is
you
not
know,
what I signed up
retreat or not
for. Backing out.
fight.
Vika?
Okay, we gotta make sure to stay in range. What is my 100 feet radius right now? Oh, we're super fine.
Is the tough one. He's gonna come forward.
This is the moment.
She's got bravery.
This is where
She's
we
got an
shine.
ability. Ability is called shove. He's gonna try.
Yeah.
It's a
Oh my
classic.
Initially, the plan was to
Absolutely
shove
not.
Classic.
the people off the cliffs.
We're gonna go back a moment here, right? We're gonna roll back and back and back and back and back. Back and back and back. Okay. So the positioning of these people right here is so that the player characters, when they're not on their horses and they fight their way up here, will come to this spot and have to fight these people, and then this person can shove them off a cliff because they've got multiple attacks that can be used as multiple shoves, and they can shove and shove. And the idea was that we're going to defend this area by shoving people off cliffs, and it was going to be a cool introduction to the mechanic. But this asshole, I love you, Vasher. This asshole brings his horse up here. He brings his goddamn horse to a battlefield on a mountain pass, which gets in the way of everything. But you know what? The rules say we can do it.
one. The people off the cliffs. But she might be able to shove a horse off the cliff with its
There
rider.
is no fucking way you can
There's
shove
no
a horse
way.
off a cliff.
Now, Mr. Moon makes a great point here. In the real world, you cannot shove a horse off a cliff. However, in a real world, you cannot survive the fire breath of a red dragon. It's just not going to happen. In the real world, you get hit by a lightning bolt, you're probably going to die. Some people do survive it, but like the survival rate is pretty low. But in the D&D world, there are characters who are guaranteed to survive a hit by a lightning bolt no matter what, all the time. They can survive multiple hits by lightning bolts. In a D&D world, you can get run through and be bleeding to death and then just roll a natural 20 and get back up and keep fighting. You know, there's a lot of things that happen in the D&D world that are absolutely impossible in the real world. And we base our game and our actions on the rules and the mechanics of the system. And the mechanics of the system says you can shove a creature one size larger than you, or a creature no more than one size larger than you, 5 feet. Them's the rules.
Neal.
Well, it's a cliff.
No
It's
fucking way you can
no
shove a
The horse, I think, probably gets some advantage.
There
It's a
is
cliff
no-
difference, but I have to
But
look those
wait,
up.
a ton.
fucking.
I mean, probably gets well. It's a.
They
No,
just
I'm
humble
trying to
off
lower the
that
volume.
edge.
Right
sad-
there. Here we
The
go.
sad truth of this is this horse will die a horrible death at some point. It's inevitable. Neal is.
We do give the
Yeah, there
horse
is no way you can
advantage
shove
for
a
having
fucking
4
horse.
legs, which makes perfect sense during a shove.
You know,
But we're not
there's
giving
no
an
shot that
advantage
a 3
for
strength
its
character
size.
Can beat an 18 strength character in a skill check, in like an arm wrestling contest. But when you roll the
happen.
dice, anything is possible.
It's a very good point, previous Neal. when we do strength checks, a 3 strength character can beat an 18 strength character in a skill check, especially in 5th edition, where the 18 strength character is rolling d20 plus 4, and the 3 strength character is rolling d20 minus 4, and there's a difference of 8 in their dice rolls. So, you know, a 3 strength character it's definitely not impossible for them to lose that roll. It's actually also quite possible for them to win that roll. In 2nd edition, there is a 15-point difference in their rolls. It's twice as bad or twice as good. Not quite, but you know what I mean. So, you know, all sorts of things can be done in the dungeons and the dragons. And shoving a horse is super legitimate in this campaign.
There's
Real quick,
Roll your dice.
just
We need to go to a farm, Koibu, and I want you to push a horse more than like 2
I
feet.
am
Okay?
100% certain I could not push a horse anywhere, but I'm also 100% certain I couldn't kill a dragon.
There's gods at
yet-
work here. Who knows? The gods might find it funny for the horse to get pushed over.
That's true. That is
just on
true.
clarification on the combat mechanics, real quick. Vika has an attack with bite.
So
Had I readied that, would
the
he
other
be able
thing
to do that
here
right now?
is that Vasher has an
The
ability.
Find familiar spell specifically says that your creature, your or actor. No,
Vasher has an ability that allows him. We're gonna put it into chat in just a moment here. After everything gets resolved, he
Flicker
drops it
will try,
into
erase the-
chat. No, does he not drop it into chat? He doesn't
Alright.
drop it into chat, but he tells
Here,
us.
right? How far am I from Vika?
Is G to persuade his return to roll. Your melee attack. Of your action to shove. Can you force someone who's trying to shove your mount to shove?
Right. So the text of his ability, what is it? 5e mounted combat feat. Mounted combatant feat. You can force an attack targeting your mount to target you instead. And that makes sense for like bow attacks, maybe, or for melee attacks with weapons, maybe, but not really for grappling. You know, if you are on your horse and someone says, I'm going to grab the horse by the head, and you're like, nuh-uh, I make you grab me instead. I don't know about that. I don't mind having like the griffins are attacking my horse, so I'm going to like take the blow instead of my horse. That seems legit. But someone shoving the horse and you're like, no, instead you're going to shove me off of the horse instead of shoving my horse. I don't buy it. But I was met with such fierce resistance by my players, such ridiculous ferocity and complaints that I let them use the ruling that they wanted. I felt like they could use a win. I felt like it was probably the right thing for the players and the game to say that we can shove a person instead of a horse. I don't think it's actually the right ruling, but I went with a ruling that I thought was suboptimal because I thought that would be better for gameplay. And that is a decision process that we will make over and over and over again, is that we will use rulings that I think are inferior because they're going to be more fun. And if it's truly an inferior ruling, it'll come up later and we will reverse the ruling later and everyone will be like, okay, we really should play that way. And then I won't rub it in I will try not to rub it in. I stand by my decisions.
You instead.
I need that +1, okay?
I actually have something here, but let me use the attack action. It's called a special melee attack. That
So it's
skill you said any attack, right? It's not one.
say react.
You fall. Your horse is fine. You can give your horse some hit points back. Full attack.
All right,
Flick.
Where are we here?
Boom.
Roy Waystar.
All right, so the rest of the battle is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
You know, these dudes are slowly making their way up the hill. They had been deciding to be like ranged units all along, and so they're way behind the rest of the party. We got the hills that are tall, so making it hard to attack these people. And so now that they were hiding behind and they have to catch up, they're gonna lose sight of enemies. They're gonna lose a lot of attacks because they were hiding in the background. If they had been like moving up with their allies and right behind their allies the whole time, they'd already be in combat, but they were cowards and now they're being punished for their cowardice.
I will ready a spell.
You're gonna ready a spell, okay.
Nope.
Completely
To get
too far for you.
Moves back up onto his horse.
And Roy will use his readied Shocking Grasp, which has the range
finally.
of touch, and my familiar can use touch-based spells. I will roll a 10.
You hit. Is that right? Hold on. They have no armor. Their AC is 11. Vika touches them.
All right. Shocking Grasp.
I thought their AC was 11. Touch should
8
not hit on the
lightning
10.
damage.
You've done it. You've done it. It cannot take reactions until the start of its next turn. My God.
Get fucked.
Good job.
Are you
All right.
shoving me or the horse?
Shoving the horse.
Horse gets advantage, right?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll let that one target the horse. That seems fine.
Okay, next time we gotta probably clarify. I rolled a little bit fast there, but yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. Look at that.
Stupid, man.
Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, I love it.
Mention, if this guy was a barbarian, he'd have advantage on all of these rolls, and it's so bullshit.
There's a lot of bullshit. Oh my God, Vasher just knocked unconscious.
Steermere saying that advantage on these push things
that's
would
amazing.
be bullshit if this person
there's a lot of
happened to
bullshit
be
in
a
5e. I think
barbarian,
5e is a
but then
bullshit
proceeds
system, but this
to
is
maximize all the damage on his
know,
thunder
power
spells.
spells. Stuff.
Can shove horses. Yeah, well, we can.
All right. The battle continues. There's some fighting. We get to more or less some people getting down by some very lucky attacks. You know, some more scorching rays come out because it's clear that the battle's being lost. So Flicker starts using some of her leveled spell slots again, actually does some very serious damage, fucks up the players quite a bit. This critical hit is hella bomb. And the battle gets to that like super clutch, everyone's about to die moment. And the real turning point here is when Roy is asked to surrender. And Roy's surrendering here. And while Roy's surrendering, everyone else is making their death saves. And like the last time our party was having to make death saves because they're all about to die, we take our time where possible. We're not going to go back and do them all to make sure each death save is appropriately, how do we say, built up.
34 plus 2.
Roy hasn't made his surrender yet. It's about to happen.
Oops, I forgot +2, but yeah.
So 9 and 4 is
13.
13. You have now attracted her ire. She thought the battle was over
He's
and
hitting
this was
Flicker.
all done, but there is still clearly one more person. Vasher,
Get up.
it was nice knowing
This
you.
is going to be a
See that? It's nice knowing you. We're trying to underscore your character's dying. We want you to feel the finality of it. We want you to feel the impact of it. We don't want it to be like, well, make your save. Oh no, you died. We want to like approach death head on and be like, you're going to die. When you roll this dice poorly, it's over. And we want to, you know, to respect the players.
not one where I die. Oh,
You're fine.
Bodyguard
fine,
will
18.
see the fucking person is still fighting. And she will walk 50 feet to you and look at you in the face and say, lay down your arms or I will beat you to death. The battle is over. Dear
Fail.
Melee minion is chilling. Well, you did just hit her, so Flicker will just throw a firebolt at you for 4 points of damage.
Now, that firebolt could have killed him, right? Because it does D8, D10. How much does firebolt do? Firebolt 5e does D10 damage, and Roy Waystar has 8 HP. So on a hit, that has a 30% chance of killing him or, knocking him unconscious. And of that, not 30, I'm sorry, 15% chance. No. 30% chance of knocking him unconscious. And it has a 1 in 20 chance of critting him, which in and of itself has a non-zero chance of instantly killing him. So a firebolt, pretty solid method of just destroying Roy Waystar. Now, Roy Waystar, to be fair, could have shielded to stop this damage from hitting him. Because he's got 12 AC and this had a 16 to hit, so a shield would have brought that from 12 to 17, and that wouldn't have damaged him. We all make mistakes in our play all the time. I forget that she has shield in just a minute. Actually, when those magic missiles just hit her a moment ago, she should have shielded against it, but I forget that magic missile blocks. I forget that the shield spell negates magic missiles. Completely forgot it until someone mentioned it to me like a week later. Highly unfortunate.
You 2 fails and 2.
No! It's happening again.
No.
I
But
cannot believe it.
It's a natural 20, man.
it is a natural 20. Technically, yes, you are back up, but like, it's a bad gamble. You gotta surrender. You gotta give up. You've lost.
We do actually want the players to surrender here because this battle could very easily be the end of their lives. And our players, if they surrender, if they take the L and just peace out, they might lose some money, but they got their lives and they gamble so hard.
You're not gonna lose anything. You could escape with your friends' lives. You're still prone.
I'm gonna pretend that I'm dead this round.
Okay. And that's genius. I love I'm going to pretend that I'm dead. I'm going to like wake up, but stay laying down. I love it. That is a baller play by Cassian.
Yeah.
Cassian is gonna
fake
chill.
it.
He's gonna fake it, and he's gonna ready an attack for if someone comes nearby with his greatsword.
The firebolt hit me for 4 damage, right?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this woman is in front of you saying, surrender, lay down your arms. Is Dio, Cleric of Jexel, worth dying for?
That's a really good point.
Surrender.
This guy's a lot of HP, guys, and he's gonna fucking kill me.
Yes, the
Yes.
bodyguard's got a lot of HP.
Roy is going to fall to his knees, start crying, and say, "I'm sorry, please don't hurt me. I'm sorry, please.
There we
Please,
go.
I'm
That's the
sorry,
right
leave me
move.
alone."
That's the right move.
Come on, potato. Get back up.
Let's do it. Come on.
All right, hang on. I gotta be ready for this roll, okay? Because this is a 1. Okay, we're good. We're good.
Are you 2 and 2?
I'm 1 and 2.
1 fail, 2 pass? Okay.
Yes.
The bodyguard will go about taking your stuff this round. Roy, still like,
This is an important move as well. The bodyguard is going to take Roy's things. He's surrendered, but we have to deal with the surrender. We're going to take a round to take spell components, to take weapons, just a round to take it, strip him of his gear, to make the surrender real. We're not going to just be like, oh, he surrendered. Well, come on over, buddy, with all your weapons and everything and walk on with... No. Let's take a round, disarm the guy. Needs to be done. It's an
take
important
your
maneuver.
staff or whatever tools you might have, take your component pouch, take your backpack.
Put out all my shit.
Excellent. She just moves it to the side. Steermere. Okay. Flicker sees that you're surrendering. It's over. No one else has any actions. It's just Cassian. I think you're chilling.
Well,
So
what
she
is
walks
what does
past.
Flicker do? Did she just stand there?
Yeah, well, you're playing dead, right? So you
Yes.
can't really see much up there, but she's not coming down and she's not shouting.
I play dead.
Okay. Steermere.
Pass.
Good job.
And Vasher.
Come on, pass.
So Vasher's
Two.
2 fails, 2 passes
The
right now.
bodyguard. No, she's not gonna help. She's not gonna try to bind anyone's wounds.
I considered the bodyguard going and helping and binding wounds as like the battle's over, no need for people to die. But you know, these people did just kill her friends, so not gonna happen. Also, they're not heroes. They're not named NPCs. They're not anyone knows. There's no reason necessarily to help them out. We'll go take a look. Maybe if there were more allies of hers left standing, she would do such a thing. But like, there's no one else to watch the mage. If she leaves the mage, to bind to save these people, even to ransom them back, the mage could just attack her or something. So better just to leave him be.
Look at the horse and see what's up with it.
But let us take a look at that horse, because you can keep an eye on the horse. You can take the guy's stuff and then go over to the horse and take a look at the horse. Not like grab the horse, but like take a look and check it out. That's a reasonable post-battle looting maneuver.
Does the horse attack her?
I don't know.
That's
She
an
approaches the
angry
horse
horse.
carefully. If the horse looks like pissed and like it's gonna kill someone, it might be, you know, guarding this corpse or whatever. Then she'll keep her distance. She
Referring to Vasher as a corpse there is our very intentional reminding us that he's about to die.
will,
We got to set that expectation. So that way, if he survives, if we're setting the expectation that he's going to die and he lives, that's great. We set the expectation that he lives and it dies.
take a look at the thing. Not trying to. The battle's over. She's collecting the loot phase. And I do believe it's Vasher death save, and you're on 2 and 2.
We're done, boys.
Nice.
Stabilized.
Oh.
Steer
Yeah,
mirror.
stable.
I'm in the same
Stable?
position too.
55% chance to stabilize.
Pass.
Oh my god, dude.
So our party stabilizes, but they've
Hold on,
lost the battle.
I was pretty certain they were going to die here, or at least one of them, because I haven't done all the math on it, but each death save is a 55% chance to succeed and a 45% chance to fail. If you roll a 1, it's 2 failures. If you roll a 20, it's more than 3 successes. So you have roughly, I'm just going to ballpark it and say like a 60% chance to stabilize when you go down. But 2 60% successes aren't great. That's only a 36% success rate for 2 downed characters to stabilize. And we didn't have 2, we had 3 downed characters. So 0.6 times 0.6 times 0.6 is a 21.6% chance for our team to not die. That's a 1 in 5 that one of these people, all of these people would survive. And looking at the math ahead of time, I know in the first session, I expected it to be the end. In this session, I really expected it to be the end. I really thought it would be over. And my language here, when I'm saying the battle's over, let's not worry about it, the battle's over, the battle's over, it's because I see this opportunity. I see that the campaign should have ended. By the luck of the draw, it didn't. And so maybe if I word my conversation right, I can convince the players not to take any stupid fucking risks. And maybe we can get out of this with a full party and like some interesting, you've been robbed, you've been set back, you've been defeated. Like maybe we can do some cool, you've had a failure, but you're going to keep fighting on moments. But the party is so cocksure of themselves.
I'm waiting specifically if Flint fuckhead comes down here. Or if this guard is like taking him away before Flint comes down.
Yeah, before Flicker comes down, the bodyguard will walk
I attack.
the prisoner.
Oh, you're gonna die doing this one.
You're
He's gonna
prone,
die
you're
doing
attacking
this.
at disadvantage. You sure?
Shouldn't I get surprise? Giga surprise.
Yes,
I'm not-
you should
I-
get
it's-
surprised.
Any amount of surprise you get is like completely negated by the fact that you're lying flat on your belly and it's a 2-handed weapon, and at best it's like maybe in one hand and you like gotta grab it with 2 hands and then from a lying position. I don't know. I don't think
it is awkward to try to surprise attack with a two-handed weapon when it's probably only in one hand. You're gonna overcome the. Give me the greatest deception check of your life, opposed by her insight check.
Can I give you? I would argue it'd be an acrobatics check to like finagle the thing to attack at a non-disadvantage. If I fail the
That's a pretty reasonable argument. It's not the, trying to pass yourself off as dead and like move slowly as a dead person. It's the quickly grabbing things and moving them all at once together. I dig it.
acrobatics check, whatever
Because
DC you want.
You always get a penalty for striking while prone. The only advantage you might have, oh my god, it is a great... Yes, you do have her by surprise. Advantage and disadvantage will cancel. Regular attack roll.
Here's the attack.
She's got so much
21?
HP, dude.
It's a hit.
Nick, we play the characters.
Yeah.
He's so right.
Fair.
For 10?
Jesus.
Nice.
Okay. I need to bring
we
this
go back into
up.
initiative.
Okay.
I go first.
Well, if we're doing this, we should all re-roll initiative.
Reroll.
So you roll it. He'll roll it.
Nice.
He'll roll it. I don't know if Roy wants to hop back in this mess, but it is messy. Roy?
He's fucking going for it.
Thank God.
Roll in then.
You're at the
You
end
gotta
of the
roll in.
section.
Nice.
Roy's like the French general at the start of the First World War. Not to relate everything back to the First World War, but it's just, it's such an important event. I can't remember his name, but he's the general who just like is super calm and super steady, and no matter how bad things get, he's always got a level head, and he like can carry the French through despite their atrocious losses. But the only reason why it's so important that he's like a level-headed general that can like carry things on when they're going poorly is because he doesn't listen to people. And when they're like, excuse me, sir, there's a huge German army appearing on his flank, he's like, no, that can't be. They must be right here. And so he makes a bunch of bad decisions. And so it's important to have a level-headed person when you've like made bad judgment calls for years. And so now you're in a shitty situation, and it's important that you can like keep your calm in the shitty situation where other people might collapse, but like you wouldn't be in the bad situation if you were you'd made good calls earlier. And so Roy is much like General who stays in the back, fucks over his party by not participating optimally or near optimally, and then comes in at the end of the day and saves the day at the end. But the only reason that he can save the day at the end is because he didn't, save the day earlier and gimped his party earlier. And I want you to understand when I'm saying this, I love this trait about him. It makes him such a great character. It makes Roy so much fun. I love the like cowardly, spoiled, rich brat who like has read all these stories but like can't actually handle any of it. Like Roy is amazing and he does such a good job. But he does it great. Jan fucking kills it here. He kills it all the time. But god damn it, Roy. You caused this mess. Roy, you see the corpse at your feet move. The greatsword comes up and hacks into the legs of the bodyguard next to you. She takes huge damage and almost dies. Somehow, you are the fastest of your party. You have been disarmed. You just have your clothes and your hands. No spell components.
I can't cast, but like my spells don't need any
Yes,
components.
Joffrey.
If it's verbal and somatic, then you're good to go.
General
Yeah,
Joffre.
fucking firebolt that. Oh
think
wait,
that's the guy.
actually, I actually don't know which one is more damage.
The French general I was talking about.
Firebolt. Hold on, I should know this.
Fireball does D10, and you ones become twos. You're in fire.
Yeah,
Adepts,
we
so-
should firebolt.
Who are you firebolting?
14. The lady
one?
next to us.
That will hit.
I forget another ruling here. We're so blind. We've got our blinders on so much that we are forgetting rulings left and right. In melee combat, you have disadvantage on attacks with ranged spells and ranged attacks. He should be rolling this at disadvantage. 2 damage. Cassian, I don't know how you beat her in initiative. You son of...
I can stand up free, like, with my
15
movement.
feet of movement, yeah.
Okay, so I stand up. 13?
Hits,
It's-
10 AC.
14 damage.
Fuck yeah.
He goes down.
Oh my god.
Fucking just surrender! They had you!
Mr.
It was
fucking
over!
Luton.
You're gonna die now.
All right. Flicker passes her her fear save, her morale check. This is not how this was supposed to go. She had you. You were all down. You were all unconscious.
That's fine. I have so little to say about it at this point.
It's our special move, doesn't she know?
Yeah, it happens every fucking battle.
Yeah. It's the ultimate feint. We all just get knocked unconscious and pray to the
And then
gods
we
that
get
someone's
back
gonna
up.
get back up.
The tension building by just sitting there silently and judging the situation and letting the conversation continue. Good move, DM. Let them stew in the final moments. We don't know which way it's going to go, but let the silence build the tension.
She firebolts the melee warrior. No. We'll take a while to get there. The wizard is the one who can
Good call.
hit her from range. So she firebolts the wizard. 10.
Miss?
Miss?
And you can see my facial features. We're going to back up just a moment here.
Firebolts the wizard. 10.
Miss?
Miss?
I know a 10 is a miss right away. I know his AC, but 10 as if it's a question. Let them say it's a miss so that we can build a little bit of tension, a little bit of drama, play up the me versus them angle, and then, really ham it up with the gosh darn it. Why didn't she hit that attack? This is just helping, build the drama and ham it up a little bit for funsies.
Yes.
To make the game more fun.
Melee
go, baby.
minion passes his morale check. And
We're all gonna die.
Like,
no. He madly goes in. I think that's actually a terrible idea. I think
That was a mistake. That was a huge mistake. He shouldn't have rushed in. I mean, if we're trying to, play well, he shouldn't have rushed in. But I think we make the mistake, and then he gets there, and then we realize it's a mistake, but we stopped the movement, and we want to encourage our players that when we make our actions, they're final. And so we always want to be on the right side of history, and when we finalize an action, we finalize it.
he charges,
Ben.
and I think it's a bad idea now that it's been done.
He should have moved. Should have done a 30-foot movement and readied an attack for when someone came into melee range of him. So that way he would have been able to attack Cassian. That's the optimal play, but
The bodyguard
Roy.
is dead. Roy.
Kill the wizard.
Just kill the wizard,
I'll
Roy.
handle him.
Alright. I can move back before I attack, right?
No, you'll take an attack.
No, you'll take an attack of
Oh,
You can do it.
fuck
It's
you.
fine.
No, okay.
Just roll a
I'm
crit here.
Firebolting the lady. Let's.
Oh wait, have you not got another? Have you not got another magic
I
missile?
do have one more. It says 0 on my sheet, but I'm pretty sure I only used 2 magic missiles, right?
Yeah, you've only used 2.
Let's fucking do that shit.
Didn't you? There were no other spells you cast?
I think he misclicked a spell once,
Ah,
I agree.
and he will have taken the spell
all right.
slot.
2d4 plus 2.
Where's my? Hold
Fucking
on.
nice roll as well on the first one. There.
Sorry.
that is it's a good roll.
7, 8, 9, 10.
And again, I forget that shield deflects magic missiles entirely. Completely forget about that ruling. But as we've seen in this battle, a lot of rulings have been forgotten. A lot of rulings have been maybe poorly called. And I don't know if we were to go back and do each of them appropriately, I don't know how much it would have changed things. And this is just one of the features of Dungeons and Dragons, is that things get forgotten. And things get forgotten on all sides, and things get forgotten that favor the players, and things get forgotten that favors the NPCs, and that favors the enemies. And all in all, it's probably a wash. There should have been some moments where Roy could have had his shield spell and not taken damage. There would have been some moments where enemies would have had, or the player characters would have had disadvantage on attack rolls. There would have been areas where the enemies could have remembered spells. Like it's all probably a wash. And in the end,
it works out well for our player characters.
12. She falls
Yes.
unconscious.
That's pretty much it for the battle. In between sessions, though, I do roll death saves for Flicker because the party then takes some time to like figure out what's going on over here and go help stabilize their allies and take a look at things. And I really was hoping that Flicker would not only pass her death saves, but roll a natural 20 and get up and leave. And so by the time they got to the top of the mountain, that she would just be gone. I was really, really hoping for that outcome. And I almost considered just declaring that she rolls a 20 on her death saves, because as a DM, you can do that. But in the end, I decided to just let the dice be what they were, and I rolled her death saves, and she failed them, and she died up there. And that's fine. That's a fine outcome. I think it would have been fun if she had lived, but that's okay. It's the start of the campaign. There are many more heroes and many more villains for us to come across. There are many more people that there are to defeat and to encounter who will show up again. And we'll just have to wait for one of those other creatures, one of those other heroes.
All right, Cassian, come on.
And I think,
Now,
yeah, that's it. There's no more to this. So in this session, our parties recover from a disastrous battle and end up recovering from a disastrous battle. That's their story arc, is dead, healed, dead. But they've also visited a city of Avalar. They've gotten some gear. They've gotten some money. They've put themselves in a better position. After this battle, they get enough experience to level up. And we do all the calculations, and I buy a bunch of, I write up lists of gear that they would need. And I think I tell them in between, I think I tell them in between sessions that they're going to level. And so we just start the next campaign leveling up, or not the next campaign, the next session leveling up. Yeah. Yes, the next one. So at this point in the game, we are 2 sessions into what I was planning to be a 10 to 15 session story arc. And right now, we are perfectly on track. We're exactly where I thought we would be. We are, in the city of Avalar, or just around the city of Avalar. We're in the second session. We're getting used to the desert. We're getting used to the new environment. There's weird slavery stuff happening. There's heroes. There's villains. There's clerics. There's we're in the early fun stages, and everything is going according to plan. And as I said before, we're recording this after the 4th session. And I don't really know exactly where this campaign is going to end up. But our players aren't on rails. If the party decides to abandon the storyline and go off and do something else, they can do that. If they decide that they want to grind out a few levels, do another side quests, they can do that. The party decides that they want to become warlords and take over a city, they can do that. The story is about the Lazarus expedition, but the Lazarus expedition doesn't necessarily end up resurrecting good King Arnold at the end of the day. The Lazarus expedition is going to do whatever they're going to do. And so while I am gently guiding them towards what I think is the story that we want to tell, it is up to our player characters to determine what story we're actually going to tell. And I don't know if the rails have, if the tracks, the carts, I don't know if the train has gotten off the rails entirely, but in the next couple of sessions, we're going to begin to see our final destination might not be such a clear, straight shot. There might be a little drifting happening on these train tracks. So that's it for our director's commentary for the second session of the Lazarus expedition. We will come back and do the third and the fourth and everything else from there on out. So catch you guys next time.